Macron to discuss a Congolese problem. In another country, no president will do that. It will be a private conversation and they will not even make it public. You can't, because you know what the French mean to the Congolese people as far as the conflict is concerned. But that is the legacy of what we are. So IMF, you're right, has got a larger than life influence in Kenya's economic policies. The UN has a larger than life influence on what Kenya does. Americans do, the European Union does. You can go on and on and on, because we have never shaken that legacy to take charge of ourselves and cut off this dependency syndrome and this Eurocentric mindset. We haven't cut it, and it is replicated through the education system. Those international schools you see in Nairobi, I don't know, British, what, they perpetrate that mindset, whereby the Kenyan elite will look at the West for solutions to their problems, for advice. Tony Blair would come to Nairobi and advise people there. But elsewhere, Tony Blair would be characterized as a war criminal. No one would want to touch him. But in Kenya, he would be welcome, advising Uhuru Kenyatta and stuff like that. So those kind of things. Bill Gates will come to Nairobi with very atrocious policies, very injurious to Kenyan farmers and the Kenyan people. But the government would want to put in place constitutional measures to protect him and these designs. Only in Kenya would you find those kind of things. So you are right. We may not be different from Congo. In Congo, people are there for geological reasons to mine its wealth, plunder its minerals. In Kenya, they come and mine something bigger, Pipita. Human resource. That's much bigger. So we may be even worse than Congo. Here you are mining, stones, precious stones, stuff like that. The Congolese people see what you're doing. They see you as an enemy and they're opposed to you. They may not have the power to, parry you off. But in terms of consciousness, they do have it. But for us, we're worse, because they come and mine human resource, the brain. A president and government openly campaigning for Kenyans to leave the country and go and work abroad. What is that? We're losing something bigger than gold, aren't we? Something bigger than diamond, aren't we? Bigger than hydrocarbons, aren't we? So we are even worse than Congo. And the political elite who have no spine to stand up to the multinationals, to the Western media, to the Western political elite, and all sorts of people. So we are worse in that sense, aren't we? We are. So there is a lot of interference in Kenya's domestic affairs from elsewhere, with the acquiescence of the Kenyan political elite. And the political elite also have got the backing of the elite across the board, in the academy, in civil society, religious fraternity, and across the board, the media. Peter, for instance, have you ever asked yourself why any newspaper or TV, I've spoken about this before, would invite the American ambassador to their studio to comment about Kenya's affairs? Why would that be necessary? Or a newly dispatched British High Commissioner to Nairobi to be invited to a TV station to comment about Kenyan affairs, political affairs, elections, and they ask these questions to the media openly. Why would you want to hear an American position on Kenyan elections? What do you want to do with it? Why would you want to hear the European ambassadors or diplomats in Nairobi about Kenya's affairs? What do you want to do with that position? What do you want to do with it? Okay, you think their position is pro-people, is pro-Kenyan people, or is that what you think? So that is how sad it is as far as our case is concerned. And therefore, Pipita, I agree with you. There are parallels between Congo and Kenya. But even if you look at it deeper, we are doing badly. We're doing so worse off than Congo. Because in 2025, I think it's this year, when William Ruto is hosting France Africa Summit, I think the first time that summit is being held out of a former French colony in Africa. It will be held in Nairobi, I think this year. Who does that? and the kind of problematic relationship that the French have with their former colonies in Africa. Why would you want to embed yourself in their politics? What do you want to gain out of that? It can only be because we don't have consciousness as a country, as a people, and especially with the political elite. We don't have it. So we go around the world doing things that people look at and say, okay, who is doing this? And why is even doing that? So if the Congolese, as you say, they have protested or even burned down the Kenyan embassy in Kinshasa, it is that kind of anger. Why would you want to discuss our conflict with a country that we accuse of complicity in our problems? Why would you want to discuss with them? You, Kenya, why would you want to do that? That's the statement they're pushing across. So it is that, and I'm not so sure we are going to get it right anytime soon, because one of the things that disturbs me when I speak to the Kenyan elite and even the academy, they will tell you, no, the World Bank says this, so it's right because the World Bank says so. Oh, the UN says this, it's right because the UN says so. Oh, this thing is done at Harvard, so it's right, and the University of Nairobi can do it because Harvard is doing it, or Cambridge. That kind of mindset, I think it's problematic. It's completely problematic. It cannot be the reason why we do things, because those things are done in the West, or some of the Ivy League schools in the West are doing that, and therefore it's good for us. And that's why when you ask experts which capital city would they like to settle in, they will tell you Nairobi. They will not tell you Uganda. They will not tell you Kigali. But Kigali is modern. It's a modern city, isn't it? They will not tell you Uganda. Uganda is also a good place, good climate, lush and green. They will not tell you Johannesburg or Cape Town. These are like really modern cities. They will tell you Nairobi. And for some reason, we think that because there's something, good we have compared to, say, Lagos, compared to, say, Cape Town or Johannesburg. No, it's because in Kenya, they know they'll get away with a lot. They will get away with a lot. If they commit a crime, the government of Kenya will not hold them to account. They will not. They will not. In fact, they will facilitate their exit. They will get away scot-free. The things you will not do in Kigali, if you're an expert and you're working in Kigali, try and do things. Break their law and see how they will deal with you. Or say things that they consider to be insulting to Kagame and the people of Rwanda and see how they will handle you. You will not do those things in Uganda. You will not do those things in Pretoria. South Africans will not allow the American ambassador in Pretoria to lecture them. They will not allow it. They will come heavily on him. Tomorrow they will be protesting again outside the US Embassy in Pretoria. And the police will not shoot at them. Or the British High Commissioner in Pretoria will not lecture South Africans on their internal affairs. Tomorrow they will be protesting outside of the British High Commission in Pretoria. And the South African police will not shoot at them. They will express the outrage. So that is the thing. They will get out with anything and everything in Nairobi. So where do I want to settle? I want to settle in Nairobi if I'm an expert. There, yeah, why? There, my whiteness shields me from a lot of things that even it doesn't shield me from in the US or Britain or Europe. You get? It's as simple as that. And therefore, we tend to think these missions in Nairobi, UN mission, UN complex, it's because we're a peaceful country and stuff. No, it's not that way. There are other more peaceful countries as we are. But those missions will not be there. Because, for instance, Peter, why is it that the Kenyan government has not negotiated, before setting up that UN mission in Kigiri, some kind of, concessions for the Kenyan citizens who are working for that UN? You talk to those people, they tell you, no, the Mzungu who is working in this UN mission, he earns way above us. We're doing the same work, and sometimes we do more work. But because of our passports as Kenyans, like, the rationale is that you're working at home, so you're not entitled to this very many benefits. They will tell you that. Talk to them. So Mzungu who is working for the UN Nairobi can afford to take their child to a school that their Kenyan counterpart would not afford. Why? Why wouldn't the government extract concessions from the UN that my citizens, for you to set up this complex, will get the same benefits as any other citizen of any other country who is working in Nairobi? Why? So if you don't tax the UN staff from other countries in Nairobi, why would you want to tax the Kenyan staff? Why would you tax them? I don't know whether they're taxed, but I'm just giving an example. Why would you want to tax them? If that's the policy, why can't it operate across the board? Why? Because, we are very harsh as a country to our own people, but we bend over backwards to make sure that Mugeni is so well taken care of. Mzungu is happy. Natives can go cry in the toilet. Who cares? They're not entitled to these benefits. That is the tragedy of Kenya, Pipita. And therefore, I think the Congolese are more conscious than we are. When I listen to them, they're more conscious than we are. They know the source of their problem. They protest very vehemently, and they define and frame it quite robustly and with clarity. What we don't do. We don't do because you can see we always ask ICC to come and intervene in our affairs, or UN come and help us, international. But Congolese want those people to go away from their country, just leave and go. But we want them to come and do what? Peter, that's my take. We are worse than Congo.
Malia Davis, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, PP.
Do you have anything to add in what Weston has dropped on us?
Yeah, so you see, the thing is, after the genocide, a lot of Hutus fled to DRC, particularly those areas of which he really wants, which is North Kivu and Goma. So they are by that time they were counted to be about 1 million Hutus who were involved in the genocide, and then they escaped towards Congo. So these people, of course they live in those areas, and they also have militia. They also have their own militia, Hutu militia, and Kagame, fine, he could be having interest of annexing North Kivu and Goma, but I think the issue is that he wants to deal with these Hutus. Okay, apart from the minerals, of course, the minerals are also there because, of course, he would like to benefit from them. But these Hutus are seen to be a threat to not just his government, but generally to Tutsis, because to him, if he just lets those guys, like, he didn't give them a hard time, he just leaves them alone, and you can hear the numbers. That time, back then, it was already considered to be about 1 million of them. Let's not talk about now, it is like 30 years later. So these are people who could topple him. These are people who could come and do another genocide. So for him, even his rule or his tenure is also threatened by the fact that it's just like you become a president now based on your tribe. You become a president, and now you're a minority because your people supposedly have been killed in large numbers, going to 1 million. So the people who did that, they flew to, let's say, Uganda, and they're in large numbers. They are not a few. They're in large numbers, in millions. And I believe now they've expanded to even millions. And they're not just citizens, but you can get it from intelligence that they have militia. They have militias, they're training, they're expanding their militia. So you'll always feel unstable that these people, they can come and do what? They can come and overthrow. And I believe this is why even Uganda itself, Uganda is supporting this. Uganda has been known to be harboring these M23 guys. They've been known to give, in fact, the general, the big people, the big people in those militias or in those armies, they do stay in Uganda. They are given housing in Uganda. They are protected in Uganda. At one point, those M23 had captured a part of a part that is neighboring between Uganda and DRC. It's called Bugu something. I can't remember the name very well. And when they captured, by the time they were capturing that, the Ugandans were building a road to help trade between Uganda and DRC through that area. So they were building a road which is about 80 something kilometers. And what happened was, when now this M23 captured that area, which is a border like Busia or like Malaba, about that area, they killed some soldiers from the Uganda People's Forces. Yani they from the Ugandan army, they killed people who were manning the equipment there. And nothing was done. And now the road stalled completely. So the people who are doing the trade, because there's a lot of inter-trade, particularly come from the side of Uganda to that side of Congo, they now have to go through Rwanda to be able to access particularly towns like Goma, because Goma is the largest city in that area. And it's where even most people who've run away from war in other areas of Congo, and also the aid workers, they are supporting the aid workers. Normally come to Goma because that's where most people, as in it's the stable. Let's put it like in Eastern Congo, it's the stablest place. If you can check before that, it was a very stable place. But now where things have reached, it's no longer stable. Some troops, some UN people also, they've been killed. I understand that they are bombing even hospital facilities. They are bombing even where priests are staying. Areas which are civilian areas, which are supposed to be none. And I understand there's also another threat which is coming in, because in that bombing, apparently there are some labs. I don't know whether they were research labs or they were which are harboring some stuff like is it Marburg, the virus, and Ebola as well. So like Ebola, which is airborne, should they bomb and somehow integrates into the area, or in the air, or in that area, in the general area, then we'll also have a problem of Ebola. So there is a lot which is going on in that area, which but as I'm saying here, Ruto really does not, he cannot, when you're going to, you must have some authority on issues, you must have some authority on issues. I don't feel that there's any influence whatsoever that Ruto is going to have, because in the first place, these M23 people, they're even being supported by the Ugandan government, to the extent that the Ugandan government did not even stand up for its people, its troops who are killed on that borderline between their country and Congo, who are killed by M23, and the Wakubwa who are in M23, they are known very well that they are harbored in Uganda. So something like that is not something that you'll pick a call or you'll go and have a meeting and it will stop. Chances of this ending, the last time when it was this bad was like 2012. But the way it is, it's like this guy, Kagame, has taken advantage. Now there are so many things which are going on in the world. So I think his plan was all along to capture Goma, to capture North Kivu, so that he can be able, first of all, to deal with those Hutus, and as well as protect, of course, the Tutsis who are staying there, because there are Tutsis also who are staying there. So he wants to deal with those Hutus, who are genocidaires, who are involved. This genocide of Rwanda is not like how you would say an army kind of thing. It was a civilian thing, whereby civilians were the ones who were, in fact, more than even and as you know, of course, the people who can do the most harm is the citizens, because is the civilians, because they are more in number. Because like here in Kenya, we say there's one policeman to every 17,000 people. So the damage which one policeman can do, if the 17,000, tuseme hata kama not all the 17,000, tuseme hata 15,000 people who could all get a weapon. Let's say like what happened in Rwanda, they may not get guns because those are expensive, but machetes. So you arm all of them. So the number is very high. It's very, very high. And I think that's even why they had this court switch they were having to try and bring some reconciliation, because the numbers were too high. I don't think those people could have even fitted in prisons. There were too many. As I'm telling you, people used to leave their houses in the morning and you go and chop people the whole day. You're just chopping your neighbor, of course, and it's not people you don't know, it's your neighbors. You're chopping your neighbors and those kinds of things. So a lot of these people, they went through that reconciliation thing which they were doing. But then there are those also who fled and entered DRC with the intent, and many of them were militias. Many of them were actually militias, not even just regular people. So they entered DRC with the intention of, will one day come back and overthrow this guy, will one day come back and capture. So this is also the war that Kagame is fighting, and that's why you see sometimes he even sends people to go and kill those genocidaires who are hiding in South Africa and other countries. You just hear somebody was just shot. So he's also trying to ensure, because he knows the kind of influence or probably the kind of resources they have, they can be able to mobilize. So they can destabilize him and they can remove him from power. And even if he has contained dissent in his own country, some of the people he imprisons for dissent, at the end of the day, they move out, they go into exile. So there are so many people who are in exile who are looking at Rwanda, and they're like, one day we'll come back to this country and we'll overthrow and we'll take over, So that is a big problem. That is the biggest problem to the way I see it. And this is why when William Ruto now thinks he can contribute anything much to lessen or to do away with the problem, he can't. This is an issue which has been ongoing since post-genocide, which is over 30 years. It's only that the M23 have just been holding back, because if they make any advances, they probably get a lot of backlash. But now it's like wameamua, by the way, for them to pick a place like Goma, because Goma is like the Nairobi of that place of Eastern Congo, and it's about the only place which like had stabilized, and guys were living like a country which has a government, in a place which has a government, unlike the other parts of Eastern Congo, which are just crazy. There's no guys just live like animals. You just live from one day to the next. You don't know what will happen tomorrow. Anytime you can be attacked by militia. So Goma was good. Goma was a safe place. Even aid, people who bring aid were bringing it there because it was safe. If you can see, it was a place where they even had some kind of research centers whereby and labs whereby they're even keeping some they're even keeping something like Ebola to do some research on it. Then that means that was a stabilized place. So if you see M23 attacking and taking it down, capturing it, that shows you that these people, the intention has gotten to almost what you can say the point of no return. It will be very difficult to end this, because this is Kagame's, what I would call, last frontier. It's his last frontier. If he's able to capture those two, he'll feel more secure in his presidency. He'll feel more in control of the forces which could destabilize his government, which could remove him from government, which could also come in and threaten the peace and security which the country is enjoying, because they have the numbers. The Hutus have the numbers. It's only that maybe they're not as well armed, but they have the numbers in those areas. So I believe that is what it is to Kagame. It's a matter of his survival and how he can feel more in control and be able to deal also with those Hutus who are even those killings. I believe they are targeted so much on those Hutus who are believed to be militias, who are believed to be anti him and all that. So that's my position. My position is that this is a Tutsi Hutu conflict which is going on, and I feel this is why they even have the support of the Ugandan government, because why will the government be supporting a militia? It goes to show you that it's not just any
Let me
other
give you
regular
context, Malia. Let me give you context. So there's somebody here anaitwa ameniandikia kwamba hi PP, I can't talk, but just my rebuttal to Malia. Ruto's authority is to support Kagame and Museveni, just like he started Haiti thing and it happened. Yeah. I wish I could get a clip of an interview he did sometime last year or in 2023. He said that M23 Congolese are Congolese and not Rwandese and not Ugandan. I'm paraphrasing. Listen to this.
The position of the United States. You've spent a lot of time with President Biden. It's all very well to say we believe in the two-state solution, but when you are sitting with him, are you pushing strongly for an end to this calamity in the Middle East? Since the United States is seen as being central, it can stop this calamity with the sale of arms. It is perpetuating this calamity. Did you say anything about that? The position of Kenya is known. It is not for me to decide. You are sitting with him in the room. It is not for me to decide the position of the United States of America. Can we not tell your friends not to support a genocide? And our position has been very clear when it comes to a two-state solution. It is not a position that we acquired yesterday. It is a position that has been and continues to be Kenya's position, irrespective of the positions of other countries, because we prosecute our own agenda, we speak for ourselves, we think for ourselves, and we drive our own Mr. President, you are in the capital globally of the world, the most powerful capital in the world. You've got international aid organizations pleading and crying for help. We are seeing mass graves, children being starved and emaciated. You are here right now at this pivotal, significant political moment. Surely it's not enough to say we as Kenya call for a two-state solution when you are sitting with the man whose country is selling arms to Israel. Why not leverage your proximity and your advantage to appeal for reason? Let me tell you, my sister, Kenya has done its bit. We have taken the firmest position when our alliance, when our interests converge with the United States, we stand together. When they don't, we stand separately. But that does not mean we become enemies. That does not mean it affects our friendship. It's just because it is what it is.
That is, and then the DRC President Tshisekedi said William Ruto is doing well. I'm going to repeat that one so you guys can go and translate it. Ah, yeah. Kenya power. Hello. Okay. I'm glad you already played the clips. Anyway, request the microphone and talk to us. Thank you so much for that, Kenya power. Mishakata stima huko jamani. Aya. Malia, continue. So, may get at least what the president has said in terms of Kenya's position as well.
You see, what I'm telling you is, in these kinds of things, you only have so much power, and particularly even in the conflict of is it South Sudan, the conflict between the Dinka and the Nuer. you have some power, but at the end of the day, the people who decide what will happen. And if I look at the magnitude of a capture that Goma is, me, I don't see Nani backing down. You know, it's like you've gone fishing and you've gotten the biggest fish. Then someone is telling you throw back the fish in the water. I don't see. Because once he's gotten Goma and North Kivu, that's that's what his target was, and he was always holding back. The M23 was just capturing small places like that area, which is between Uganda and DRC, and small. But now, when they have such a big fish like this, and even the level of the massacre can tell you. So I don't see him backing down. And I certainly don't see Ruto influencing anything. Maybe that's why he was calling Macron. Maybe he thinks that Macron may have more influence than him. But just the same way as he's saying in the interview, that he was just refusing to tell the lady that I don't have that kind of influence. I don't have that kind of influence to go and tell Biden what to do, you see. So for me, that's the way I'm seeing the situation with Rwanda as well. Because for Kagame, this is really a kind of a do or die. It's for him, and that's why he advanced it to that, because it would not have advanced to that level without his go ahead. And Uganda, as I've told you, Uganda is supporting this M23. It's very well known. Even the UN themselves, they said it. That UN is Uganda is supporting these guys. They are big shots, stay in Uganda. They're given residences, they're given protection, everything. So the problem is bigger than what you are thinking it is. Thank you.
Asante sana kwa hiyo submission by Malia. Gets us to 7 minutes to 7 p.m. East African time. I hope you're doing amazing this beautiful Tuesday.
This is Home Run with Pipi.
Yani nikuambia leo ni tarehe 28. Kwa wale ambao mnafanya kazi saa hizi mnakwanga kamshahara kameingia. Okay, sawa. Pay as you earn, pay as you eat. So as you're talking about pay as you eat, pale hivi juu kuna tip Jaline 0721948229. Tumekuja na system mpya ya Home Run with Pipi inaitwa pay as you hear. Pay as you hear, unaenda pale kwa tip Jaline 0721.
You are listening to Home Run with Pipi. Weekdays from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Unasikia hiyo mambo? Western Shilao amesema tuache, tunapigania wanajeshi na sisi tunalala njaa. But yes, if you like what I'm doing, of course, Home Run and PP, the lights are kept on by you, the listener. 0721948229 is the number to drop in your support. Hii wiki mtu wangu ni kama nimeachwa kwenye giza la totoro. Kwa hivyo ukipata nafasi ingia pale hivi juu mniekea angalau za cabbage. Kuna baridi sana, nitafute hata chai bwana nikunywe kabla bachelor kufe na baridi. Ismail Luta, how are you doing though?
Fine, PP. Good evening.
Yeah, man. Good evening to you, brother.
Have you seen the issue of a stoppage of medication? That news where they are saying Trump administration moves to stop supply of life-saving drugs for HIV, malaria, and tuberculosis, as well as
through USA.
Yeah, so I think things will be very hard for the Kasongo regime. This is one of the things which was really unexpected. The man has just covered 47% of his term, and then there's just a curveball being thrown to him. So it's a bit kind of dangerous. But back to the regional diplomatic ties. So we as Kenyans, we are an island of peace in a region that is kind of ravaged by wars. Concerning the DRC, yesterday I saw 9 South African soldiers had been killed by M23 rebels. And it's a bit sad because you are going there, you are trying to kind of bring peace. But now one country has a different interest compared to its neighbors, and it's a bit hectic. So I think as far as Rwanda is concerned, they have a very big influence when it comes to chaos there. And Kagame, I think, will be remembered as one chap who, outside his country, wreaked a lot of havoc when it comes to DRC. And partly it's due to resource, but also partly it's due to survivorship. But one time it will backfire, and it will be a very dangerous thing for him. But even for the Rwandans, even for the Congolese, they'll have to decide how they live. The problem also with our neighbors is that, let's start from the leaders. It is true African leaders usually see leadership as enjoyment. And at one point, Daniel Toroitich arap Moi had a meeting with Mobutu Sese Seko and Kenya, we had gone there to make some kind of a deal and to strengthen our diplomatic ties. So, you know, Mobutu took Moi to some entertainment. He used to move around with his boats and girls dancing around. I think it wasn't different with people dancing to president. It used to be a common thing. And at one point, Moi was asking, shouldn't we go back and join the emissaries in reading the clauses that they have come up, so that even before we sign them, we can get to have a clue of how things are. Mobutu told Moi, come on, man, our job is just to go and sign. It will be done by them. And so for him, it was like leadership is just for enjoyment. But when it comes to regional cooperation, sometimes we as countries, we usually have different interests in different countries. And the same like Kenyans we had in Somalia. As much as we are going to Somalia to kind of say we are stabilizing it, we used to have some magendo business, taking sugar from Somalia, coming to Kenya. And some clannish interest compared to the big Somali clans in Kenya vis-a-vis those ones in South Somalia. So you find sometimes there are a lot of interest which may not be healthy. Same to Kenya, we have taken us aside with the clash that is going on in Sudan. And at one point we hosted one of the leaders of the fighting factions in our country. So sometimes it's usually a bit dangerous, and we need to move towards in a very cautious way. So for DRC, Rwanda is having a bigger hand in it. Uganda, they're even more proximity to it, and also they have some interest to it. So geographically, we are a bit far, but I think maybe instead of taking our leaders, our soldiers to Haiti, maybe Congo could have been a bit better. Thank you.
Welcome to Home Run with Pipi.
Kuna kitu yenye imenikwaza sana. Kuna kitu ambayo imenikwaza. So I want to ask, sijui nani hapa hivi ame-interact na KWS. There's a story that is burning in Nakuru currently. It's 7 p.m. ladies and gentlemen. Kuna story ambayo ina burn in Nakuru ambayo KWS walichukua kijana wakaenda naye ndani ya park, and now they're not even able to produce him. And then the people know the police that took the young man. They're demanding for him to be produced. And today, the police did a parade and brought police officers, but except the ones that actually walichukua huyo kijana. So, we are having a culture where the KWS is having a very bad culture of being very violent to the communities around, especially in terms of dealing with poaching. But don't you think we have better ways of dealing with poaching other than hii mambo yenye tunafanya hii yenye iko juu? Because right now in Kivumbini, Nakuru, there is a lot of drama going on. Watu wanapiga vita sana pale hivi because wanasukumana na askari, and it is because of all this history. KWS kuchukua kijana wao wakampiga, and they're very inhumane. If you've been in Naivasha, you know the way they handle the conservancies. Happens a lot also around in Laikipia. So this is something that I just had to mention on the show. It doesn't need any form of reaction, but I just wanted to put it out there that you're only very, very, very sad. Western.
Peter, it does require reaction because Ismail, I just described Kenya as an island of peace in a region bedeviled by chaos and war. Moi is the one who loved that kind of phrase. So Ismail, in which peaceful country would the security apparatus just, whisk away a young man? And that's not an isolated case. They happen all the time. These abductions are similar to that. And they do it so brazenly. People are watching and they do it and they disappear this person and they don't appear in court. They say nothing, and they are damn sure that they will get away with it. They won't be prosecuted. They won't be jailed. How can such a country be peaceful, be described as peaceful? It cannot. It can't. Because in a peaceful country, when people protest, they're not shot dead. In a peaceful country, when people protest, they're not run over by cars. They're not run over by cars. They are not. In a peaceful country, a president does not use words like treason in reference to citizens who are exercising their constitutional rights. That's not a peaceful country. So peace is not absence of full-blown civil war, similar to what is unfolding in Eastern Congo or Sudan, or the chaos, decades-long chaos in Somalia. That's not what peace refers to. You may not be in full-blown war like Kenya, but people die on a daily basis, extrajudicially, in unexplained circumstances, and no one is held to account. Surely that's instability. That's complete instability. So we are not exceptional. We are not. We are not peaceful. Because even when Moi was talking like that, people are being disappeared. People are being disappeared. The political assassination is even as he was talking like that. Those who are opposed to him, some were being taken out. Those who are agitating for multi-party politics, some were being maimed. Security apparatus would be unleashed against them and they would be maimed. Some would be arrested and tortured without being arraigned in court. Or if they're arraigned in court, trumped up charges, and they're subjected to some sham trial and they are locked up. Some will get out of prison completely maimed. They can't lead meaningful lives. And no one knows what happens to them. What happened to them while they were in detention. So we are not a peaceful country. Please, if we were peaceful, we would not be spending a lot of time here talking about our government. Please, we wouldn't. We would not. If we were peaceful, no, we would be going about our activities because things are working. You don't even know who the Minister of Health is because you go to hospital, there is health for you. You don't know who it is. You don't know who the Minister of Transport is because the roads are working. Everything is working. Schools are working. We would be that's a peaceful country. You just go about your business. You are paid what you deserve. If you apply for a job, you get it because you're qualified. That's a peaceful country. But what is so peaceful about having to know someone before you get a job? What's so peaceful about that? Or having to know someone in a government office to get a service? What's peaceful about that? What's peaceful about that? Or having a job and you don't know when you'll be paid. You don't know when your salary will come in. Or you don't know when next the government will deduct your salary for whatever, and you have no say about it. What is peaceful about that? What's peaceful about not being sure about tomorrow? Whether if you're a parent, if something was to happen to you today, you don't know which country is this you're leaving your kids to. Which country is this? Yeah? That's what makes even death more painful. That you have got kids and something happens to you or to happen to you, you don't know what will become of your children. There's nothing certain about the society in which you live. What's peaceful about that? So peace is not the absence of war. Peace, it's a very comprehensive concept. And in our case, we don't have peace. We don't. We may not have Al-Shabaab or Boko Haram or M23 or the people who are fighting in Sudan, but we are not peaceful. We are not, because you go to life expectancy. If you want to know that a country is peaceful, what is the life expectancy in Kenya compared to those countries that are at war? What is it like? What is it like? Because people who are living in a peaceful society, they live long. They live long because you worry less. You only worry about things that you can't afford not to worry about. But here we worry about virtually everything. Virtually everything. That's why people age fast. When they fall sick, they die. They don't have money. And even if they have money, they're not so sure. You may go to hospital, there will be a botched operation. That kind of thing. There's no peace. So I think we should broaden our definition of peace. The political elite lie to us. They brainwash us with their insular, narrow, parochial understanding of peace. They don't go the Congo way, but you are stealing from us. How can we not complain? Or you'll go the Somali way, but you're balkanizing the society. Siad Barre used to balkanize Somalia. Somalia, the genesis of its current quagmire started under Siad Barre. He used to privilege his clan as opposed to the other clans, and those other clans came together, they ganged up, they removed him, and they didn't agree. Similar to the kind of people you're seeing here coming together to remove Ruto. That's how people came together to remove Siad Barre. They removed him. After they removed, they couldn't agree. They turned against one another, and it has never stopped. Because you have no agenda other than removing the person who is there, and you're just like the person who is there, very clannish and corrupt. So we're not different from Somalia, because Somalia didn't just happen overnight. There was a process, and we are in that process. When you balkanize a society, you marginalize people, you preside over corruption and impunity, what do those things cumulatively lead to? They lead to state collapse eventually. That's what they do. When people are frustrated, they have nothing to lose. They have nothing to protect because they have no investment in the current state of affairs. They have nothing to protect. They have no savings. They are not holding any job. A family of so many people, there's nobody who has got a formal job. There's nobody who has got an income. And you find those kind of people in Kenya, just like in Somalia. What is peaceful about that? There's nothing. So we must at all times be cautious of the narratives by the political elite. They're always self-serving. So when they tell you Kenya is an island of peace, in a region of turmoil, what they're telling you, don't ask us these questions. They don't ask questions about corruption. If you do, you'll go the Somalia way. Don't ask us questions about these appointments that are not reflective of the diversity of the Kenyan population. Don't ask those questions. If you do, you are now bringing about ethnic politics, and ethnic politics put Rwanda in some deep hole. Don't do that. Don't ask questions about the competence of people who are employing the government. Don't. You're going to destroy the peace, but there's no peace. So it's a way of lulling the people so that you think you're better than South Sudan. You're better than Sudan. You're better than Somalia. You're better than Uganda. Well, you're not. You're not. Your political elite are just like the political elite in Somalia, in Sudan, in Rwanda, in Uganda. You better stop them before they take you to where Congo is, or where Somalia is, or where Sudan is. You better stop them. But they tell you, no, please, just be peaceful. We are acting in your best interest. At least you can wake up and walk around the streets. But I can wake up and walk around and say, I'm not so sure about my security. I can wake up and walk around the city, but I can't protest against what I don't like. You're going to shoot me. The way Museveni would shoot somebody, or the way people are running away in Congo. So peace is not the absence of war. It's also the absence of conditions that precipitate war. But in our case, we have conditions that could easily precipitate war. These people are talking about ethnic politics. Or during come elections, we jama hata kuwa na agents regarding talking. You know, that's very dangerous language. He won't even have agents in my backyard. That is dangerous. Because what happens is when elections are held and you stop agents from your backyard, then the person who is in power is going to nullify the elections in your region. What do you do? Or is going to inflate elections from their backyard because they've got power. Where does that take the country? And we listen to those people and think they're making sense. They're not making sense. That inflammatory language, I'll ensure there are no agents for this particular individual. That language would make Kenya be very small for all of us. Very small, tiny, scampering for our dear life. Because it will be a zero-sum game. Okay, you've stopped agents from area. Now no one can verify your results. As a president, I'm nullifying your results. They don't count. We will go by the results which he thinks he has certified himself because he's the incumbent. Okay, he has got the instruments of power. How do you confront him? How are you going to confront him? So we're not peaceful. If you look at that language that politicians, that's not the kind of language politicians use in a peaceful country, of demonizing one another, of calling one another names, of completely animalizing one another and their tribes. That's not the language you expect in a peaceful country or a democratic country. It's not. So just listen, that's the language of war. That's the language of war. Because war is preceded by a particular language. You rob people of their humanity. You marginalize people. You stereotype people. You liken people to animals and beasts. You call them names. That's the language of war. Eventually, when they graduate from that language, it's full-blown war. Can't you see our language? It's not peaceful language, it's warlike. So we're not a peaceful language. We're not a peaceful society, if you are keen. We are not, and we better be alert. Because the current political atmosphere, for those who can remember, or those who have read, it is pretty much similar to the politics that preceded 2007 elections, pretty much. It's near similar, that language and that political mobilization. It's near similar. But because for us history, Pipita, history is not picked from the streets. History is taught. It's not, you don't pick it from the streets because there are people who are born after certain events happened. They must be taught. If you don't teach them, they wouldn't know what happened. So because we don't teach history, or because we don't think history is a big subject, and it's a big subject in societies that are civilized, we tend to forget what happened in the past pretty fast. But for those who care to remember, the current political happenings and developments are not any different from the ones that preceded 2007 elections. They are not any different. They're not. And we better watch out and not get embroiled and sucked into that vortex, because it's going to be very bad for all of us. No one will lose. Like in Congo, no one is a winner. No one is a winner in Congo. No one is a winner in Somalia. No one is a winner in Sudan. No one is a winner where the state collapses and people start fighting. No one wins. So we won't have winners. All of us will lose. So we better raise questions with the Kenyan interest at heart, not with the interest of any political figure or any political formation. Interest of Kenya at heart. There, you'll be right today, you'll be right tomorrow, you'll be right for generations to come. But if you raise issues with a particular individual at heart, particular political formation at heart, or your own parochial interest, you will defeat someone. And that person will be yourself comprehensively. And when you defeat yourself, it's game over. You are down and out. That's what it means in life. You defeat yourself, it's game over. Down and out. Thanks, Pepita.
Naona Malia Davis ameinua mkono juu, but before Malia Davis aongea, I want to say two things can cure our country. Number one, increase the tax base by incorporating the informal sector, because we keep on taxing our employees, and they keep on reducing because the civil service is retiring and there is no hiring. And number two, still a tax hole by curbing corruption. But you know that those ones are not going to happen. Those are the two things that can help our country be great today. Thanks so much, Justice Shilao, for that. I saw Ismail ameenda, lakini naona Malia Davis ameinua mkono juu kwake. I'm gonna go to Malia Davis, then listen to Olwande herself, the legend, as we get to 7:15 East African time. I hope you're doing amazing wherever you're listening us from. Malia.
Yes, thank you, PP. I wanted to give context to what Mr. Weston has just told us here. Kenya right now, we are number 25 out of around 176 in the fragile states index. Fragile states are countries that are vulnerable to conflict, economic and social disintegration, and humanitarian crises. They are characterized by weak governance, limited administrative capacity, and social tensions. So we are number 25. Our index is out of 120 on the higher side and 0 on the lower side. We are right now at 84. Let me just run down kidogo the characteristics of a fragile state, that is weak governance, humanitarian crisis. Of course, we see humanitarian crisis whenever we have any small issue like floods and whatnot, but there's social tensions, that is then violence, either armed conflict or civil war or violence by the police, human flight, that is people with resources often leave fragile states. And brain drain is also there, whereby our people are leaving the country because they can't get opportunities here. So what Mr. Shilao is saying is very correct. Tuko pabaya, we are not good, because if out of 176 countries tuko number 25, so unaona we are very near to the top, to the worst, yani, because the first ones are kina Somalia, the real failed states now, kina DRC, those ones. Lakini sisi pia we are not far behind, because number 25 out of 176, that's not a good mark, and then also 84 out of 120. Si unaona tuko karibu sana kufika hiyo 120, we are not very far. So he's very right that as much as we are not directly at war, tuko na shida, because frankly speaking, nini zetu our indicators are all not good at all. Our social indicators, our economic indicators, political, we are doing poorly in all those. So atuko pazuri. Let's not be deceived by the fact that we are not in a full-blown war. Yeah, we should just understand that we are high up on the number of fragile states. 25, number 25 out of 120 is 176 is not good at all. So I think that's the point I wanted to make for now. Hatuko pazuri. We are considered to be number 25 for fragile states. So we are a fragile state. Anytime we can go into crisis, we can go into conflict and all those. That's how we are considered as per the World Index. Thank you.
Naona Grace Olwande ako hapa ndani. Grace, how are you doing?
Doing well, PP. How are you?
I am well. Napambana tu upande. Talk to me.
Yoni Poa, I greet everyone in this platform. I just want to talk about the topics that are trending right now. Looking at the topic we are talking about today or tonight, the diplomacy. So right now you are seeing the situation in Congo where our embassy was attacked. So that literally, Congo is a very rich country. And if you ask me, I think Kenyans have taken corruption to Congo. because we have a situation whereby money laundering is happening, and those people who are doing it are taking the money to Congo. So that is the base of corruption in Africa. And looking at Congo, Congo is very rich in terms of gold, and you know the West are very interested in Congo. Our Westerners, shida yao inakwanga hii, wanatakanga vitu zetu. Wakishataka vitu zetu, sasa wanajaribu walete conflicts by all means, then watu wanapigana, then sasa wenye watu wamepigana wanajifanya ati sasa wao wanakuja ku redeem the situation. Na hiyo situation, literally it is caused by them. That is number one. Number two, nimeona the situation where Donald Trump amesema kuwa hakutakuwa na USAID. And for me, I'm taking that thing very positively. I don't know why people are ranting, because I believe we as Africans, we have the capacity to make our own medicine. We have people who are very composed. We have doctors, researchers, we have labs, and they can do this research and also come up with proper medicine for people. Hii issue ya Africans wana believe tu au savior yao ama savior wao ni from the Westerners, mi sijui ilitoka wapi. But for me, I supported Trump, and I really like the way anaeka things in order. I've also seen watu wanakuwa deported. And among the people who are being deported, around 1,900 and something are from Kenya. So we are just expecting our brothers back, and I know they have a lot to contribute to this country. Personally, I've never supported brain drain any day, anytime. And I believe right now we are at a redemption. It is high time Africans to judge our potential and our capabilities. It is high time we take the bull by the horns and do our things the way we are supposed to be doing, and also create money for ourselves. Hii maneno ya ku depend on other people, hiyo ni one thing tunafaa kuachana nayo. Now, coming to whatever former speaker has spoken about, that is very true. And as much as I'm in NGO sector, there's so many things I don't really support. NGOs most of the time hata wanakujanga kuharibu vitu zaidi instead of kutengeneza. So looking at also the USAID have employed so many people, yes, and I know people will lose their jobs, but I don't think it is more of impactful to us. I think all these things are benefiting the US people. So doing away with those things is better for this country and for Africa at large. And I'm happy. I will really fully support what Donald Trump is doing 100%. And when it comes to diplomatic issues, I think we elected a president who does not know what he's doing. He does not know how to create relationship with other people. Our president just runs. Because before hata kukue na hiyo fire, alikuwa sha rant vile yeye ameenda kuseek the France people. Congo was initially colonized by the France. So that was just a wrong move, and I think president was misguided by publicly declaring that, and especially on the social media platforms. So for me, I tend to believe we as Africans, we are going to a very great direction, and it is high time now we stand on our grounds and defend our rights and improve Africa as a continent. Thank you, people. Let me listen more.
Asante sana Golwande for that submission as well. Ladies and gentlemen, you can request the microphone and I can so that I can hear from more voices. I'd like to hear from more voices. Shout out to everybody who's tuned in. Abraham Francis, Nakona Palendani, Jason, Lion, Bumblebee, big up to you, Mzee Wesley, nakuona pale ndani, Ignatius 254, Rain, and G, big up to you, of course, calling, nakuona pale ndani, Aniachi, Dr. Ken, Bishop, one lege, big up to you, Willie, Onyi, nakuona pale ndani, Gabi, nakuona pale ndani, Wajiku, of course, Femash, Kid Next Door, what a Lego, nakuona pale Vanso, Mushira, shout out to you, Ochani, Aifa, nakuona pale ndani as well. Sahara Onchiri Aguko Bionic IP naona pale Edwin Makoti pale mtu wangu Shad Pan African Baba Jackie of course and the shaman himself. So shout out, thank you so much for everybody who's tuned in to request the microphone and talk to us. We are looking at the state of the nation and of course hiyo issue ya USAID inanipata sehemu mbaya sana because for me I think I'm with the Western on this one. Tumekuwa tukilalia masikio sana. We had the chance to set our health straight. Yeah. We had the chance to set our health straight, but we played. Yeah. Tulicheza. We had a chance to go and, you know, keep our business out of other people's business. We are in Haiti right now. We had a chance to make our health okay, but yeah, we spent 2 billion last year in Haiti. Hiyo 2 billion niko sure ingenunua ARVs, ingenunua medical supplies. We've deroofed the State House. When Donald Trump has decided now to take care of his American people, we are here crying sadly. Oh, but why do we have to buy the latest car every year? Mnajua vya procurement ya gari ni expensive ya serikali. We have to buy new cars. Ndio hiyo imeandikwa Toyota. 213 million, 23 million, 43 million to 80 million right now in budgeted corruption. So me, I believe it's up to our leaders to stop being greedy and start providing the money they know we are raising. I believe if we are serious, we will need little to no help in health. We can plan ourselves. The call we have been having on, let us have research centers in Africa. Let us produce our drugs in Africa. Imagine, yani hata vaccines. We were just being sold. Utulitumiwa tu. You wouldn't even know if these guys distilled water and sent us. Tukajidunga tu maji hapa we. Did we even test the vaccines we are sold? Ama zilikuwa na patent tu. Unaweza kuwa tulifinywa maji hapa mbaya mbovu. You know, researchers like Nyuka Bell who listen to my show sometimes will tell you that research when developing a vaccine, you test it first on mice, then on bigger animals, and then on humans, you know, on a trial basis. And then now you put it. That is a process that takes more than 10 years. We were injected a vaccine in 2 years and people are really feeling the post effects. Now, watu wakipelekwa, tukwe tu honest. Do we tukwe honest leo? Acha nicheze jingle alafu tukwe honest.
Ladies and gentlemen, join Home Run with PP every weekday from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. only on X Spaces. Home Run with PP, the home of your most valuable social conversations.
Nataka niseme kitu hapa, alafu kama hatuelewani, nita end to space. Sitakuwa na mambo mengi. Now, tumekuwa kwa groups za michango za matanga na pia za watu wenye wanaenda hospitali, si ndio? And we have found ourselves in groups where people have terminal illnesses like cancer and other forms of surgery requiring illnesses. Nikiwaambia kwamba watu wengi wenye wanaenda India, how many of you know people that went to India and came back and stayed? The percentage for me is quite worrying in terms of ratio. Why? Because we take our people to go to be treated for medicine that is not even for hours. Alafu nika realize pia there are doctors who are actually getting paid. Wanajua huyu ameisha, so wacha tumtume tu India wamalize. So the huko hivi akitukutuma huko hivi kuna commission anapata. So for me I believe yes, USAID was doing a good job and is doing a good job. But this is the same country that wanted USAID to pay tax for ARVs. Well, I think it was so wild because the ARVs were almost expiring as the government was having a back and forth with them. It was actually in the regime that was Uhuru Kenyatta. So all these things are happening and we just quiet, or we are here imagining they will disappear. So when we look also at our country, the way and this is one thing I wanted people to talk about also, and nobody's was looking to talk about, is the abductions. Maria Serungi Shai, yeah, was taken in Nairobi. She was walikuwa na race naye kwenda wapi? Namanga. Kumpeleka wapi? Tanzania. Look at this guy called Kizza Besigye. So this is the backstory. Kizza Besigye was approached by a white guy, and they were told, Bukuja, let us talk about one or two things. So they went, they scheduled a meeting in the room, and when he met the white man told him, let me go out a bit. When he came back, the white man came with those guys that abducted him, and the next thing he finds himself is in a military court. Happened in Kenya. Turkish residents who had actually, one of them was actually doing some good work in a hospital here in Kenya, was deported. We have a very annoying PS for foreign. His kid is studying in Netherlands. I know because I know he attended the graduation last year of the kid in Netherlands. Yeah. Mnasikia vya watoto wenu wanasoma kwa Kenyan system. Yeah. So in Netherlands, the kid graduated in Netherlands. So the PS was there like, girls, anatweng. We just had an argument with the people of Turkey that we was. We had an agreement with the people of Turkey that we're going to send back these people. So yes, so we sent back those guys who we know definitely they're going to die or never see light again. Yeah. Na mimi sijaipata Mkenya tu ameenda. Sasa yule mama anaitwa alikuanga SCC. Yeah. Serem. Ako China. Sijai msikia akisema I will call you on one day. But mnakanyaga ndege kidogo hivi mkienda hii western side of Africa, of the world. Korir. So Korir does that. He does this press conference saying that Kenya does not deserve to do that. So there's that part also. We are deep in Somalia, also in the name of peacekeeping, which we have been fighting Al-Shabaab for a while now, and I don't know how that is going. Ethiopia is always our peaceful neighbor because we touched them kidogoju, but we have also had an issue with our people crossing borders towards there, and they were even having issues about the people crossing to feed their animal on that side. We live in the Uganda fighting for a rock called Migingo. Yes. And also, I remember that same week when that Migingo peace ran, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni was in Kenya. So yeah, there's a lot of things to just think about as we are looking at the state of our nation in terms of diplomacy. And of course, that issue that Grace Olwande and also I think Malia and Western have pointed out that Kenyans are being deported back, 1,000 Kenyans are being deported, have been earmarked to be deported to Kenya. 1,000 guys. Yes. So my question here is, I'm trying to get somebody to talk about immigration and why we we work menial jobs abroad and they work the best jobs in Kenya. Do you realize that huku Kenya we hardly have Caucasians working middle jobs? They are always the top bosses. Unapata Caucasian is the CEO. And funny enough, when a Caucasian becomes a boss in Kenya, they actually deliver more. So that Kakasumba has been so great that even people believe that seeing a Kenyan leader is hard. And most of the time, it has turned out to be true that every time businesses have been moved to Kenyans, they have gone to shit. I don't understand. Pardon my French.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome to Home Run with PP.
36 minutes past 7 p.m. East African time. I see Wanjiko and Femash on the line. Oluwande, where is your hand up, bwana?
Nilikuwa nataka tu kuongeza hiyo kitu ulikuwa najaribu kusema. Like, okay, as much as tunaweza sema there's a lot to be done, because mkiangalia hata kwanza leo naona ule Barasa mwenye alipoint mapua ya mwanamke mwenye ni bodyguard, ndo sasa yeye ana lead on gender matters. So like me, I tend to believe Kenya tuko na long way to go. Na nikiangalia hizi story na vile Trump aliwin, I think Kenya at this point will open their eyes to work harder, number one. Number two, to pump in funds to where it really matters. Like sasa tumeona president ametengeneza state house ati yes, sasa yeye anataka kuishi in luxury. Sisi tukitighten our belts, yeye anataka kuona gypsum, palameka, good furniture. You see, like me, I tend to think Kenya hatuna priorities. We are not setting our priorities right. And that's why you're seeing us really struggling, because hata juzi because hiyo maneno ya Trump imefanyika leo, but tumekuwa bado tukikosa hizo vaccines despite USAID kukua na kutusupply na drugs. So what does it mean? Inamaanisha the government officials, hizi drugs zikisha kuja, kuna tu watu wanazichukua, wanazipeleka into private farms, wanaziuza tena. That is what is happening. So right now you find that if you have a private hospital, the business is booming than the public hospitals. So unapata leaders wako na priorities zingine zenye hazi make sense, and those are the things we should say no to. Because like now State House using billions of shillings just to renovate, in the real sense hatuna vaccines, in the real sense hatuna madawa hospitali, in the real sense watoto hawawezi enda shule vizuri. You know, there are so many things that has to be done that the government is not prioritizing. Now, looking at pia hiyo mambo ya choosing people wenye wanaweza fanya kazi. Ukiangalia watu kama Aisha Jumwa, ati sasa hao, those are the people that are supposed to be representing roads, and we have qualified engineers. So like me personally, I always feel like Kenya tuko na long way to go. If we cannot really sweep the house and remove all the dirt, then we'll be forced to stay in a dirty environment, and we have nobody else to blame but ourselves. Yeah, so that is what I wanted to clear.
Sometimes we say war is never natural, it's instigated. There's always a protagonist in every war. Who are these protagonists? Is it Rwanda? Is it Kenya? Is it Uganda? Is it France? DRC has always been a beset with political issues. I think early this year, we saw some 100 boys being hanged who were purported to be cultists. Some people were saying they were cultists. Others were saying they were armed robbers. Others were saying they participated in the military coup. But all in all, the ruling coalition in Congo has been facing some political infighting. I'm not sure whether the President Tshisekedi has formed a real government. I was hearing people saying that people are living in vacuum in Congo. About that war, it really pains me because the war is the conflict is instigated by greed for its vast natural resources. I'm sure some of you have watched documentaries seeing how the country is well resourced with all natural resources. It's a country that could sustain the whole of Africa. Despite being mineral rich, most people in DRC live in abject poverty. There are no infrastructures, example roads. In those documentaries, you'll see people traveling with very old lorries doing their businesses. The roads are, the infrastructures, you cannot even explain how those people live when you compare with the amount of gold and all the natural resources that the country has been blessed with. In recent past, we've been having cases of foreigners being defrauded here in Kenya. This sale of gold. I've always been wondering, when did we start mining gold and exporting? So maybe we try to join the dots. We could see maybe Kenya is one of the protagonists who are instigating this war, maybe to gain in one way or the other. So those people who are doing those businesses, the gold, which and I'm also sure the government is involved. But I don't understand how that gold gets to Kenya and we export it from Kenya, and how we defraud those foreigners. It's a pity, and we really need to pray for Congo people. Those people have never known peace. The issue of having Ebola, it's also a form of war. I do not understand how it's only Congo that has those those Ebolas and those very serious viral diseases. Now we come to the diplomatic. I'm looking at you also wanting us to discuss about the Kenya and regional diplomatic ties. One thing I want to remind us is that in Kenya we do not have a foreign affairs policy. The legislators have really let us down, and if we ever have maybe a draft, it has never been passed to be a bill to have a strong foreign policy that we can follow. Because when I look at Ruto, he confuses foreign policy with diplomacy. A little understanding of what foreign policy is. It's a policy that a country uses with different strategies to guide its relation with other countries and international organizations. For instance, when we sent soldiers in Haiti, what policy did we use as a country? What were we going to gain with sending our troops to Haiti? Because a foreign policy must be for the gain of the country. for instance, looking at the American foreign policy, their number one policy is to protect the United States and Americans. The second is to advance democracy and human rights and other global interests. The other one is to promote international and understanding and American values and other policies. Now, let's juxtapose the issue of Haiti. Where does that fall? Does it either fall in protecting our interests as Kenyan people? How does sending troops to Haiti advance our democracy or our human rights? How does sending troops to Haiti promote international understanding and our own Kenyan values? So we have a government that is a joker, that is also riding on the ignorance of us Kenyans. I wish we could have a legislative house that sees the lies in this government and the lacuna, so that we can have a new law, a new foreign policy that is going to guide us on the relation with our neighbors. I do not understand if we have a foreign policy, why a Ugandan police can
We
come.
actually launched a foreign policy less than 3 months ago. Just check it. We have a new foreign policy.
Do we have it? So now,
on paper, yes.
On paper. And if we have that foreign policy, how do we allow Ugandan police to come and abduct Kenyans and abduct other visitors in our own land? So I think maybe, let me just say, if we have that foreign policy, when was it drafted? When was it assented to a bill? Where is it a new policy? I will have to go. I will have to check. Now, about speaking about the foreign aid, I really support Trump. There's something we call donor fatigue. You cannot always be helping someone who is not willing to help themselves. And then you are helping this person to meet their basics. For instance, health issues are basic. While on the other hand, this person is expending their revenues and their taxes in areas that cannot even be explainable. For instance, now the renovation of State House. Last week the president used 180 million for the Western visit. 180 million is not a small amount. So I really support Donald Trump on that, and even other foreign donors. I wish they would stop their donation. Thank you. Land.
Unasema Afrika wajitegemee. Wanjiko.
Afrika ijitegemee, tuache hii mambo ya donor funding and donor aid. We have all the resources. Kenya is very rich. Looking at the taxes that we collect, the taxes are equitable to our needs. So there is no need of sourcing those donor funding. Thank you.
Western Shilaho, are you of the same sentiment with Wanjiko that we can survive without you?
Of course, Pepita, I agree. We don't need aid, because studies have shown, and this is not speculative, that there's no correlation between the amount of aid a country receives and how far it goes as far as development is concerned. And development is not about buildings, about the quality of life of its citizens. If you pump more money into a country, that doesn't translate into better living standards for the citizens of that country. If that was the case, Africans, we would be part of the first world. because we have been receiving aid for forever. What aid does, it entrenches this charity mentality, this dependency syndrome. You don't take charge of your own affairs. You like the case of the Kenyan elite. You see, they had psychologically prepared for Kamala Harris as the next president after Joe Biden. This has come as a shocker. They did not, because to them elections are certain. They are certain because they are choreographed. But in a democracy, you don't know who is going to win elections until the results are declared, until people have voted. So with them, they assume if somebody is supported by the incumbent, automatically is going to become president. No, in a democracy, it does. So they have had to readjust mentally. And Trump is that is mercurial. It's completely unpredictable. So if you didn't get your act together, you have to, but they don't. So we don't need aid, Pepita. We don't. There is no evidence that aid has improved Kenyan people's lives. If you want to know the veracity of this proposition, look at those slum areas. How much money is pumped into those areas in terms of, funding? Non-governmental organizations that are doing all sorts of things in those areas. How much money? Have you ever seen those areas improving or being eliminated? They can't be eliminated because those people must maintain the conditions so that they use those conditions to ask for more money. So African politicians must ensure there's poverty in Africa to use it to ask for more money. That the healthcare is not working, to use it to ask for aid and donor funding. They must run down the economy to borrow from the IMF. Are you seeing? You must entrench corruption to borrow money, claiming that the government doesn't have money. Give us money. You have no money to build roads and all sorts of infrastructure, airports, rail lines. You borrow. But where does that money go? That money first, it remains where it is supposedly coming from. It's like China. When they give you money for SGR, almost all of that money remains in China because their contractual undertaking is such that they'll bring their expertise, bring their machinery, bring their workforce, and a whole host of things. So where does the money go? It remains with them. But at the end of the day, after they've done the rail line, you must pay back the money with interest. But that money didn't even come to Kenya. The little that comes to Kenya ends up in pockets of the political elite. So we don't need aid. We don't want aid. We've got people. The greatest resource of any country is its people. It's people who generate revenue. It's people who develop a country. That skill. It's not about gold. It's not about aid. It's not about donor funding. It's not about IMF or World Bank. So I concur 100%. Aid only makes sense to the looting kleptocrats in Kenya, in Nigeria, or in any other country. But to the ordinary people, aid is just irrelevant. Why can't we run our own healthcare? Why? Don't you have money? Why can't we run our own schools? Don't you have money? Why can't we build our own roads? Don't you have money? So where does the Burkinabe president getting money? Because I read a lot of stories from Burkina Faso. He's doing so much there, revamping the agricultural sector. Yeah, I'm told he's bought one aircraft. He's building his airline. Where is he getting the money to do all those things? Because he can't get money from France. The French see him as an adversary. He can't get money from the Americans. They see him as an adversary. Or he can't borrow from the international community. He's something of a pariah. He's not, in quotes, democratically elected, but he's doing things for the people of Burkina Faso. Where does he get the money? Where? Thomas Sankara before him, he did so much for Burkina Faso people. At the same time, he was a pariah. He didn't borrow money from the IMF, the World Bank, from the French. So where does this notion come from that we need the American aid, the European aid, money from the Bretton Woods institutions, the World Bank and IMF and whichever, China, in order to be anything? It's them that begging mentality from the Kenyan political elite, and it must be perished. Even you, Pipita, at a personal level, you would not want to be receiving aid at a personal level. Dignity is about somebody doing things for themselves. So you better find a job for someone, then the person can take charge of their lives. But you can't be a person who say, no, you just stay here, I'll be giving you money every month. No, which human being would want to live like that? Which human being? Because it's degrading, even at a personal level. Somebody wants to live in dignity, and living in dignity means I take charge of my life. Taking charge of my life means I've got choices to make. It's my own sovereignty. But you tell me I just sit there, Pipita, you don't want to give me something to do meaningful with my life. You're just going to be giving you money at the end of the month. Who wants to live such a life? Who? No right-thinking person would want that kind of a life. So why would an entire nation state want that kind of existence? That there is somebody who gives us money for health, for schooling, for our security sector, for agriculture, for everything, for building roads. So if that person is not there, what becomes of us? And why do we have a government? So we better be just an appendage of that country. If it's the US that gives us money, then let's stop pretending we're a sovereign country. We don't have this notion about a president, national anthem, coat of arms, flag. Why can't we just apply to be an appendage of the United States of America? Or an appendage of Britain or France? Whoever it is that, or World Bank and IMF, say we're an enclave of the World Bank and IMF because they're the ones who give us money. Or an enclave of China. China, how many provinces there? We have the other province of China. That is it. It will make sense. But you can't claim to be a sovereign state and at the same time be so embarrassingly dependent on some other actors for some of your core functions like health, like education, like security, like agriculture. You can't take charge of anything. So why do you have these people in suits? These people in suits, wasting a lot of money walking around as presidents or prime ministers and cabinet ministers. Why do you have those people? Or governors? Why do you have them? To do what? So you are just paid to live large, not to improve people's living standards, not to think, not to break this dependency syndrome. They pay you just to live large and to just shake hands with Mzungu and smile for cameras. Is that what you're paid to do? No, it can't be. So I agree. Aid, no. We don't need aid. We don't, because it entrenches poverty, dependency, and inequalities. And a huge chunk of it goes into the pockets of the political elite. That's what makes them live large and take their kids to high-end schools, locally and abroad. Where do they get the money? Source of corruption is aid, Pipita, if you wanted to put it differently. One of the oils, lubricant of corruption in Africa is aid, foreign aid. It lubricates corruption.
Somebody giving you money and not telling you to account for it, then you ask them money for the next same thing. I think that is actually fuel. I remember one time, I just asked myself this. Do IMF have brain? Because they see these things. They see people getting luxury cars. Money is deposited in Switzerland in cash. Our politician, Wavinya Ndeti, was arrested in where? Was it the Sun? In UK with a lot of money. So these politicians are shipping money. There was another one who was caught at about 200 million Kenyan. Yeah. I am with you here, Weston, that we have given, the international community has given Africa a chance to steal as much as they can, so long as they let these others do whatever they want. Yeah. Look at it like this. Yeah. You see a whole minister wearing 200,000 shillings clothes. Where did he see? And of course, you see when our new cabinet was incorporated, we had the then American ambassador, Megan Whitman. when going to meet almost all cabinet secretaries. Why was it? Kwani tumekuwa hata venye Besson anasema tukue tu nani America one time. I understand why he's talking about like that, because we are actually in that. We are entrenched in it. Yeah. Malia Davis, sijui kama kuna kitu ya kuongea kuhusu hii mambo. It's 8 p.m. East African, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, we are our final hour of Home Run with PP here. Malia.
Yes.
Natengeneza
Swali ilikuwa gani?
unajonga omena inatolewanga kichwa. So natoa omena kichwa na matumbo hapa hivi. Anyway, talk to us. Bachelor life.
Omena? I thought omena unakulanga hivyo venye iko. Kwani kuna kitu inafanyangwa?
Unatoa vichwa na matumbo. You guys.
Si mimi nakulanga mzima mzima bro. So sasa hii aid me hata ninashindwa surely. How are we going to survive? You know, that money is a lot and we spend, yani it helps a lot of people, that money. Even Baka mosquito nets, I was seeing KEMSA, they were having they were trying to get guys to procure for them those nets, mosquito nets. Alafu pia there are some medications for mosquito, ARVs. Wazungu wana nini sana, but they really help us. They really help us so much. So I don't know now what will happen surely. Na sasa unajua I know what they're thinking is this money goes to people's pockets. Lakini yeah, I find it does go to people's pockets, but also part of it goes to help people who really need it. Na mimi nikiangalia Zakayo venye ako na hii mambo ya SHIF, I don't see him extending himself or extending the budget to cover the deficit. I don't. So it will just be us hapo hivyo. Yani sasa ni kujitegemea sijui, because what I know from Ruto, I don't think, sioni kabisa ati akiweka budget ya kununua ARV ama ya kununua mosquito net. If at all saizi ni SHA which people are even paying for, na ndio hii anajaribu kugonga watu left, right and center. What do you think about mambo na net, mambo na alafu I don't know, sometimes it's like when bad things are happening, they just happen one after the other one. Sasa here we are, we got this person who doesn't give a damn about us, alafu sasa ndio hiyo tena pesa imewithdrawiwa, which could have taken care of some of us who are in the lower. It's so crazy. Yani, it's so disappointing at times being a Kenyan. But I really pity people, because I'm seeing a lot of people will die. And I don't see Ruto extending himself. I don't see him making concessions. Yeah, ataendelea tu kukula venye amekuwa akikula na whoever is in Ministry of Health, and they'll not help people. They'll just be like, yeah, hakuna pesa. Sivyo ndo amekuwa akisema hakuna pesa, so what do you want us to do? Tuko na madeni hapa zenye tunalipa, so hatuna pesa ya kwanza kuwanunulia ma ARV. Sasa itabidi mwende wenyewe ama mwende kwa hiyo SHA, unaona, ndio mpate hizo madawa zenu. Itakuwa ile story yenye imekuwa ati you just go to the hospital and you get the drugs free of charge. Itabidi sasa urudi kwa mfuko. Kama huna hiyo ya kurudi kwa mfuko, basi story yako inaishia hapo. That is something which this guy is very capable of, because he is not about to lose money, especially now that ameleta hata nani hapo Kagwe. Ama ni nani ako health siku hizi. So it's not good.
Wa Malia, unahitaji viboko.
Kwa nini? Vile nimesema Kagwe. Ni baraza, sorry. So the thing is, I don't know, Kenyans sasa itabidi tu sijui sasa, I don't know, because this guy, what I know, and by the way, let's wait, maybe a miracle can happen, anaweza hurumia wase, decide tu atenge pesa for real, yani sio ile kutenga yake, atenge tu do ya kusaidia watu, because actually in Kenya we have enough money. Hii pesa yote tunakusanya, like now the amount of tax we are paying is too much. eh? Ukienda ukiangalia kwa payslip yako upige mahesabu, it's 51%. Na sasa hiyo hapo you have not added other taxes which you pay, like fuel levy, like 18% VAT. If you add all those things, you find that even pengine you are paying up to 60% of your earnings. Sasa hiyo pesa yote wanaiba tu, ndio nani anapata ya kwenda kununua shati ya 200 and something K a shirt. Even Obama himself does not wear shirts of that money. Or even when he was the president, I don't think he was going to buy shirts for 200,000, you know. So, and I don't know why these people, they like this thing of show off. Akina Aaron Cheriot, Akina Murkomen, why do they like, can't they learn from, for example, Uhuru? Uhuru was not wearing a tee. How many times do you remember seeing Uhuru wearing? Ile tutu niliona anavaa expensive ni saa. But these other things, maybe they were costly, but they didn't look all that costly. And he was not looking for designer things he can show off with it, you know. But anyway, that's how it happens when you're new money. Watu lazima wakutambue, so you have to buy a shirt which is 200,000. Hey, it's so crazy. These guys are so disappointing. Alafu sasa the other day, the court said that can IG and akina DCI chair come and explain or tell us what they know about abductions. They refused to go, wakatuma lawyers. Wakasema they were told they don't have to go, I don't know what not. At the end of the day, of course, nothing was there's nothing much which was said, because you know that they're always trying to pretend like they don't know anything. It's not them who are hijacking people, they don't know anything. So sasa ni ile kujifanya like they don't know anything. So these people, they've gone where if you don't know. Now that's the kind of serikali yenye intakana. Go ahead, Pipi.
I want to bring in the new speakers here who have joined us. Pan-African, habari ya leo.
Salama, Pipita. I hope you're well. I hope everybody is well. I normally go back to the history of everything that happens, especially in our continent, Africa. The source of all the policies that we have. The scramble of Africa has continued to be problematic. Mpaka wa leo. It's even embarrassing, ever since the Roman times, Europe has been nibbling our sources. Tumekubali watu wakuje watunyonye tu kabisa. From our human resources to our natural resources, that scramble has given Europe virtually the whole continent. The debate about Africa's economic aid, and I agree with all your speakers today, has been conducted literally by all non-Africans. There's been economists like Paul Collier, akina Jeffrey Sachs, who I follow very well, and rock stars kama akina Bono, Bob Geldof. Every Christmas watu wanga wanaimba, do they know it's Christmas time at all? Do you actually know what you're singing? Do you even know the history of that song? Rock stars are singing to give aid to Africa. But what has that aid ever done for us? We live in a culture of aid where those who are better off, the Americans, the Europeans, they believe that giving alms to the poor is the right thing to do, and they do it all the time. Aid has been transferred to the rich, from the rich countries to Africa. But what have we seen? Tumeona nini? Since we got our so-called independence, What have we got to sing about with all this aid? Our schools are dying, our hospitals, our education. I mean, in all honesty, aid in itself is a disease, okay, which actually pretends to be the cure, and we have to literally take it as a disease. Hii ni ugonjwa, imekuja kutumaliza na kutumaliza itatumaliza if we continue with this trend. We don't need it. We don't even need it. Pipita, I think that's all I'm going to say for today. But thanks for the mic, and I hope everybody's, just going to look out for what's going on in Africa and in Kenya particularly. Thank you.
Thank you, Pan-African. I see Femash anaenda tena. Femash has been really trying to connect here for a minute. Bionic, how are you doing?
Good morning, good afternoon, PP and everybody. How are you doing today?
I'm well. You're doing good.
Yeah, I'm okay, thanks. I wanted to touch on a couple of things that I heard speakers mention. The cessation of aid to Kenya in terms of U.S. aid will greatly affect Kenyans, because Kenyans are the beneficiaries of the food aid and medicines, vaccines, things like that. So Kenya, remember, Kenya is the, what do you call it, NGO central in Africa. Kenya has the most NGOs, so a lot of NGOs, European NGOs, will kind of fill the blanks that will be left by the cessation of the U.S. aid. So I wouldn't worry so much about that. It might take a little bit of time for them to reorganize and stuff, but there'll be a bunch of NGOs, American NGOs as well, that will fall into place and do what the U.S. aid was doing. Might not be in the same scale, like mass scale, but we won't be left high and dry in terms of the critical aid to the people. The other thing I wanted to touch on was the 1,000, what's the number, 1,000 and something, 1,000, almost 1,200 Kenyans who have been slated for deportation. That is a rounded up number, and it doesn't mean all those people will be deported. Some of them will just be detained as their immigration status is probed upon. Some of them will get lawyers and they'll go to court and they'll be able to fight their deportation, because unless you are a criminal and you have been criming for a while and you're on the deport now list, then you have people still stand a chance to go to court and fight their deportation orders or their detention orders. So I wouldn't be. I'd rather wait and see in terms of that number. Out of that number, how many actually arrived back in Kenya? Back in the day when people were deported, the Kenyan government had to pay the U.S. government for the deportation of its nationals. So, and then the deported individuals would have to pay back the Kenyan government for the cost of their deportation. I'm not sure if that is still the case in this time with these new deportations going on right now. And I haven't checked to see if they are being asked to refund, if the deportees are being asked to refund their governments, and if the governments are being asked to refund the US. But that's how it used to happen, at least until even recently, just before he took office. So, yeah, I just wanted to touch on those two things. Other than that, I think it's a shame that Kenyan troops were not in a position to be, to liberate the DRC, or to be at least part of the liberating troops in the DRC. And instead, they are all the way in Haiti, where they're not even welcome. So we should be trying to solve things at home first and within our region, I think, before we go, across the pond, across the seas, where we're not even welcome, where we are forced to go, because, Kenya, it wasn't Kenya's idea to go to Haiti. It was something put upon Kenya, put upon the Kenyan president, so that in exchange for him, or for Kenya having a seat at the UN Security Council. So we'll see if once the US has not issued a policy in terms of Haiti right now. Haiti used to be in a program called in the US immigration. They used to be in a program whereby they were deferred from deportation. It was Haiti, Venezuela, Cuba, I think Nicaragua. Not Nicaragua. It was Haiti, Venezuela, Cuba, and Sudan that were in that program, where their nationals were able to renew their status every so often, I think every couple of years or so, and remain in the country indefinitely. But Trump discontinued that program. So Haitians and the rest, Cubans and Venezuelans and Sudanese, are now back in they're back in the fray, so they can be deported now. So in terms of that, I haven't heard whether the program to have Kenyans in Haiti indefinitely and to be supported by the US for peacekeeping is still going to continue under the new administration here. I know that the Biden administration was supposed to be paying Kenya for the work they're doing in Haiti, but that was not happening. Sorry about that. That wasn't even happening. So we'll see if at all that program continues in Kenya's, if Kenyans continue to stay in Haiti, knowing that this administration doesn't support that whole thing. I'll leave it there and continue to listen. Thank you.
We have sent over 3 contingents now. The 3rd contingent has gone to Haiti earlier this month. Yeah, so that is that. We have soldiers who are going right now to Haiti. We have not paid, the people who are paying it, Kenyan government has paid 2 billion as of October last year to the soldiers and the equipment, logistics, in Haiti. We were waiting for the Biden administration to pay, but I highly doubt. Do you believe the Biden administration paid? I don't think so. Do you think Trump will pay? Is the sun orange? So that is something true.
He won't pay. He won't pay. For sure, he won't pay.
So yeah, tumekula huna Sarah Ju. So do you think we really need USAID, or we just need leaders who actually
know where to put our money. Because I feel like our leaders they just don't know where to put the money. They know where to put it where they can get those companies. They are the ones who have general supply companies that win these tenders that take the money away from the people. But I believe we can get our health in order. Kama COVID, we were also depending on 100% donations. Oh my God. For the vaccines. Kirer Pat, how are you doing?
Hey, Pepe, habari ya jioni.
Njema sana.
Yeah, I hope everyone is doing well. Almost on the hump day. Hii wiki inaenda mbio. I mean, we're still in January anyway. Not to sound depressing. I don't know, can you hear me?
Yeah, nakupata loud and clear.
Okay. All right. Yeah, interesting submissions today. All totally agree, really. And I was just reading somewhere, US aid. The key purpose of US aid is to advance the US foreign policy and national security objectives. Sio kutusaidia. That is the key purpose. It's a tool that they use to advance their foreign policy. I know we have been touching the topic to the regional diplomacies, and I think someone already touched on foreign policy. So for them, that was a tool to use. Yeah, you think they're developing, promoting global development, humanitarian assistance. No, they're keeping you in check. Now, is it part of the attack now coming into play? Now we're giving you all this money, and you're starting to, you're warming up to the east. So can we put it back and then we see if you come back running to us, kneeling and begging for it? Probably it's their tool, right? So maybe Trump is looking at it and saying, okay, these guys are becoming a little bit smart. South Africa is starting to jump around the pot, saying they want to join BRICS. I don't know. Africa is warming up to it as well. So okay, so you don't want the dollar anymore. We can as well take our dollars away. So let's see what you will do. Probably it's just pulling a card game. It's a foreign policy, right? So we're just playing. We're just puppets in this game, right? The puppet master is sitting somewhere doing it. So probably I will say it's their foreign policy tool. So I mean, they have the whims, right, and the right to use it there whichever way they seem. Is it going to affect us? Of course, it will affect us because they have made us to depend on it for a purpose. They were not just going to give you money that you can choose to use or not to use. No, they made sure you will need that money to survive, so that it can become an actual tool. Because if it was optional, they will not control you in any way, right? So we are caught by the big two. Yeah, and we have to basically, we will dance to their tune whether we like it or not, or we ship out, and the consequences that come with that. And of course, we have to be bold enough. Again, aid to me is a conduit of corruption. Really, it is. That money, you never know where it goes. As I think Western was saying, the amount of aid that go to the slums could be, I'm sure more money flows into the slums, into the suburbs in Nairobi, for instance. Yeah, but I mean, when you look at it, it doesn't really go anywhere because it's it's just money that are auditing and all that. Of course, they audit, but again, they close one eye because they don't want to pull it out. But now is the time they can pull it out, because it's that's the purpose. It's supposed to do. It's supposed to keep you on check. I can pull it out anytime. Yeah, it's like you're on drugs. You're an addict already. Now, how do I control you? Yeah, I can now start measuring doses here and there when I want to give it to you, and you'll always come begging, right? You'll always be on my door. So I'll say, yeah, we got ourselves there, so we need to deal with it, or find another way out. Which I think, if you cannot, it's we are being told jump. We are not saying why. We are saying how high, right? So is their way or the highway? Yeah, that's my 2 cents of it. About the Congo thing, I mean, it's a pity, right? Such is the heart of Africa, as they say, full of resources. The Goma. It's an entire this thing. It's. I mean, it will take probably. It's so complex. We're talking about the humanitarian bit of it, yeah. But now I'm sure there's a bigger chapter on business behind it. The Glencores of this world, all those multinationals. There's. I mean, it's a mess down there. It's a mess. I mean, the U.S. at some point was really rooting for Mobutu, right, during the Cold War. It was anti-Soviet, but they were using it as a conduit. They were using the president to fire up that anti-communism, semantics in that bit of Africa. So yeah, it suffered a lot. 30 years under Mobutu, we came up to the civil war. I don't know, 6 million people have died in the last 10, 20 years maybe. So I mean, that's a big one. That's a big one to crack. I mean, we cannot solve our own issues renovating state houses in Nairobi or talk about the region. I mean, it's a mouthful really on our side. But hey ho, I mean, nothing lasts forever, as they say. But we need to get out of it, right? And the only way to get out of it is to do it. There's no other way. There's no magic button. It's not going to happen. It's not instant coffee neither. Yeah, we'll need to put in the hard work. Yeah, thank you.
I'm going to ask the speakers on the panel one question. Does Africa need a Trump? Does Kenya need a Trump, a president that actually puts Kenya? Kirera, I'll start with you.
Now, there's two things to it. We don't need, if you were to ask me a very honest opinion, democracy is situational and circumstantial, number one, right? When you look, you can look west, you can look east. You decide where you want to look, right? In China, there's no democracy. It's the Communist People Party running the show there. There's nothing else. Yeah, within that party itself, they choose to massacre themselves to find their way to the top, and whoever get to the top. I mean, Mao Zedong was one. Of course, it's called empowerment of China, but what he did to get China there, I mean, the Great Famine and all those things, one-child policy, they're now going back on it again. The population is becoming a pyramid. That is the East. I'm sure if you go, there's no public participation in China. I'm very sure it doesn't exist. Right? This is what we want. This is what is good for people. Go for it. If it does exist, probably I've never learned enough of it. Now you go to the West again. Now you come to Africa, where majority have their say, and their way, minority have their say. Is it the best form of governance? I mean, even this Traore guy we are praising, is that a democracy happening there? I wouldn't call it a democracy, yeah. But for some reason, it might end up working for them, right? Libya had their own person, and as much as he was brutal, I don't know if Libya is worse off with or without him. It's very debatable thereabouts. Rwanda, which we are praising, it's coming up, is a giant, but that guy is becoming a dictator, because he will not let go that power. You don't expect Kagame tomorrow to say, okay, thank you guys, it's been amazing, Turu, see you later. No. Yeah, it really gets into people's heads. So do we need a Trump? Probably we need to go back and re-examine ourselves, right? Because again, in Kenya, when you say a Trump, the first thing I will ask you right now, when you say a Trump, ni Mkale ama ni Mgikuyu ama ni Mjaluo, whether you like it or not. Yeah, that thing will come up. Yeah, I mean, no one is just going to give you power. I mean, our dynamics are totally different as well. If you go, let's say, even in Middle East, right, with all these monarchies, all these dynasties, in between them, they're still fighting as tribes. You will be surprised. We have the rulers of the country, and then they have to share now. This tribe, they're powerful in business, give them ministry or this ministry. They are not schooled at all, but you'll find old men from a particular clan leading a ministry. Let's say even I will not say, I don't want to get into trouble, but that's what happens, right? So this power sharing thing will always exist, but now will we ever sit down and decide who is going to be that Trump? I highly doubt.
Yeah, Malia, what do you think? Do we need a president that is Africa-centered like Milei or Trump?
Maybe like a is it called Ture? Ama is called Traore, like a Traore would do, but then not somebody who's just full of rhetoric. You see, like the one we have now, he's always talking like he's a Pan-Africanist, like he's really but outside of the rhetoric, there's nothing. It's just hot air. So I think if it's like Traore, yes, we need somebody like Traore. We need a benevolent dictator who can come and because sometimes democracy can also stand in the way of development, whereby if you decide that you are going to go the democratic way, then you may not be able to achieve your targets because you may find a lot of interference. But if you know that what you're doing is good for your country, that's fine. If it's it's going to be for the best of your country in the long run, certainly. But I think that the situation that we are in at times, a country which can really go that route is a country which has some measure of self-sufficiency. No. But now, if at all, even ARVs you can't afford. You cannot afford the ARVs. You cannot afford to, mosquito nets, basic things. So how will you say that, Kenya is for Kenya, and yet even basic things you are getting from donors from other countries? So that kind of stance, it can only come out when the country, and you can see like Traore now, that's what he's trying so much to work on. He's trying to work on making his country to be self-sufficient so that they are not taking World Bank loans, they are not taking IMF, Bretton Woods, and all those others. Now, in this case, USAID or World Health Organization, you see, he's trying to make them self-sufficient. And as long as you are not self-sufficient, there is no way you can start saying, let's Kenya for Kenyans, Kenya for what? And that time, you don't have jobs. You are looking for people jobs outside the country. You don't have basic medical equipment or medication. You are looking for somebody to donate to you. You don't have somebody who can be able to come and do your infrastructure. I mean, you don't have people even to do your infrastructure. You are calling Chinese to come and do it. You are calling outsiders to come. Like almost everything, all the important stuff in your country, you're always looking outside, who can help me. That's why they say beggars can't be choosers. Because how are you going to choose and yet you're begging? You're a beggar. It doesn't work like that. So I don't think that really we can be able to, unless we get someone who, because first of all, we need to pull ourselves out of this debt that we are in. We are in extreme debt. And when you're in extreme debt now, you are a slave to somebody. That is the fact. So a slave cannot come and say that as slaves we come and be for ourselves. How does that work? If at all, out of every 100 shillings you are making, you are paying about 70 shillings or 80 shillings in debt repayment. So before we try to be like Trump, can we try and first have a measure of self-sufficiency and not importing every last thing you're importing, even toothpicks, even things which can be manufactured in the country, even very basic items which you can manufacture. You are always importing. You're always importing. You're always waiting for donations. You cannot then have the moral authority to stand and say that let's make Kenya for Kenyans and let everyone else live. We can't do that. And in any case, you can see Kenya here now with all these refugees, not even refugees, but so many people who have come, with the open visa, the free visa. Like Kenya has become, like a hub of even so many people who are not refugees, but they just came to this country because they saw this country like it has opportunities and whatnot. And for sure, they come and exploit, and they exploit the available opportunities, and they make it very well in this country. So, and of course, they add value also to our country and to our economy. So we are not exactly doing them a favor by having them here, because they do provide crucial services. They do provide, a lot, and they also help our economy. So I don't think that one can work for Kenya. That one of Trump. Let us be Kenya for Kenyans and all that, or make Kenya great again. I don't think it can work. Thank you.
I'm talking about a radical president, of course, not Trump in particular, because I know if someone like Bionic is brought to the mic and asked Trump, atakwambia hiyo nayo ni kunivuruga. So I don't know what you, Bionic, have to say on this. Do we need a radical president who's going to set us straight and make us not depend on international aid, Bionic?
You were right in your conclusion about what I would have said. So yeah, I think we do need a radical president, but radical in terms of having a radical, good character and having integrity. That is the kind of leader we need. We need someone who, a non-corrupt person, if there's anything like that, at the least be corrupt leader or an incorruptible leader, someone who is not easily bought and paid for. Is there such a leader? I don't know. I haven't seen. I've been looking. I've been listening. Some names have been thrown around lately, and other people come back with, information about those leaders that then puts into question their character. So we need a radical, positive character, positive-minded, a manager kind of leader who can manage Kenya like a Fortune 500 company, So, we need someone with integrity, someone who cares about the people, someone who will be concerned about every small tribe, not just the big tribes. Every single Kenyan will matter. Education will work. There'll be schools that are built, and proper schools, equipped schools. A leader who will delegate the right people with good character, not questionable character. So the leader has to be the radical leader has to be able to pick other leaders like him, people with integrity. Where are we going to find these people? If we can find these people, then Kenya will be on a good trajectory. And if we find corrupt leaders, then we should be as radical as China is with corrupt leaders. Hang them. I'm sorry to say I'm really against capital punishment, but there has to be an example set. If we just have one example of what will happen to a corrupt leader, trust me, corruption will end as fast as a speeding bullet. It will end. But we have to do something. We have to show that there'll be no tolerance for corruption. So in that terms of radicalism, yeah, I'm all for it. Going back to the original first question, Trump is a dictator, so a dictator would not work for us. We have a dictator right now, and it's not working for us. A micromanaging dictator, and someone who's not afraid to spill blood. We don't want that. We have that right now. So we can make two lists, a list of what we have right now and a list of what we want. And then we can see the very few names that will come up in terms of people who fit the bill of what we want and not what we have right now, and see if they can be leaders that we need. That would be my take on it, PP. Thanks.
Thank you for that submission, Bionic. I want to bring in, before I bring in Western, I'm going to ask Academia the same question, and Johnny Nalo, listen to this.
It was given as an executive order. So as the Ministry of Health, I have tasked the various state departments, the various programs and directors that have been involved or that will be affected by this, so that we can be able to map out and look at the impact in matters finances, in matters human resource, etc. And with this, we'll come up with a concrete way forward in terms of interventions, of which we'll be able to share with the Cabinet, His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, and see how we can move forward in matters intervention. So we kindly request that you give us some time before concretizing this, and we'll be able to share with the rest of the country.
That is what your Minister for Health had to say when she was asked about how do you go from here, from USAID. Academia, how are you doing?
I'm good, PP, and the rest.
Yes, so talk to us. The matter is the matter is everywhere.
Matter is anything that occupies space. Nilifunzwa hivyo kitambo. So you see, we are still beggars, and when you're a beggar, you don't have your own voice. And I don't know whether this begging narrative is by design by the white man, or it is the notion that we have created for ourselves, or the content of the circumstances that we find ourselves in. I really don't understand why certain things we can't do for ourselves. So we must beg the white man. Over 60 years, we are still begging the white man. If Trump sanction certain things here and there, or tighten the belt here and there for us, then we are all over the place crying and all that. I don't support the idea of the Trump with the global, those restrictions and all that. At the same time, I don't see why USA should be the one helping people, unless they benefit from us more than what they give us. Because in business, it is the seller who are benefiting more than the buyer. But presumably, the buyer would assume that is getting the value for his or her goods or services. But that's not how the trade works. The person selling might be getting more benefits than the person buying. So that is the nature. So if they are giving at aid or helping us, at what expense, to what end? So I think even if somebody is helping you, there must be a point where the point of discussion where whether they can continue doing the same or not. And we must ask, why would they continue doing over and over and over? Because we become a slave to them. So I think we need to develop ourselves. And this question of developing ourselves, I don't know why it has taken since the white man left the country. Whether they left it physically, but financially we are still a beggar, and they must give us for us to function, I don't know. So what I would say, if people can behave, if most countries can behave the Trump way, I think that behooves all of us to start rethinking how we do certain things. I don't support the idea of dependency, because it has never helped in any way. Because when you help somebody, there must be a point where this person is able to continue on their own. So you can't help somebody forever. You were born, I was fed by the parents. But today, I can't go to my parents to feed me. Actually, I should be the one feeding them. So that stage of life, we can also embrace it, that you cannot be helped throughout your life forever, because we don't know what happens next. If things like COVID-19 and other things did happen, and then all of a sudden we are not able to develop our vaccines. So what is it that we can get from this, our developed partners, so that we don't keep on depending on them? I think what we need to do is to get that we cannot get on our own from them, so that they help us to develop ourselves, not to depend on them. We have the resources. If we lack the knowledge, why don't we sponsor people? Why don't we sponsor people to go to those areas? If they're the doctors, they're the whatever, they go and learn. So what they can do there, they come bring that thing here, and then we start ours. So I don't buy the idea of the aid all throughout. It doesn't help. because there is no reason why. Look, many people are moving to US to a greener pasture. At the same time, you are told that Africa is more resourceful than the white countries. So why would African leave their country to go to the white man's country and then start doing other things that they could have done here? So I think what is making us live here to go to those places to look for greener pasture in millions and millions. Why? Whereas they don't troop to this side in the same. They come to venture, to adventure, to do other stuff, to maybe relax and all that. So I think that kind of arrangement, we should look into it. Either it is by design. I've refused to accept the fact that we are not able to do it. Yes, if you go even to those foreign countries, the best scientists, some of the scientists, and those are black, are from Africa. Why would a doctor leave Kenya or Nigeria or Tanzania to go and work in Cuba or to go and work in US and become a neurosurgeon there? Why? Is it because of money or what? And then when you are sick, look, the silliness of this. Today in Kenya, you are told to register SHA, SHI, Taifa Care. I don't even know the name. Then somebody is taxing you to fund that project, to fund that service. It is okay. The same person does not trust the service that you are taxed to pay, but is using your tax, which you pay him to manage, to go and get treatment outside. We don't see the white man coming to be treated in Kenya, but if you go to those places, you get even the blacks in those hospitals treating people. Those are fundamental questions that we need to ask ourselves. Why would a minister in charge of health travel outside the country to seek medical care and purport to be in charge of the same thing in the country? So those are the things and issues that we must address. In fact, it should be like government office. In fact, government officers should not leave the country to go and look for health, because we pay these people to make this service work. But you are using the taxpayers to fly abroad with the medical cover in millions to go and get treatment. So really, that is why it has never worked here, because they don't even believe in the process, in the service in itself. So how can the government tell us that it's going to work while if they are sick, they fly outside the country? So until we fix that, we're not going to get it right. So we must address that. The bigger, the elephant in the room is, how do we address it? I would ask the Shihalo Western, maybe by the virtue that is an elder person and all. I mean, I fail to understand why over 60 years, we still travel outside our countries to go look for help somewhere. So what is it that we lack? Is it the leadership or the resources or the brain? Because either there must be something fundamentally wrong for us to go outside for the things that we purport to teach people at the university level to do. I'm a product of the University of Nairobi and so many other people. We have so many engineers. So I don't know the reason why we still even bring foreigners to build our major roads over those years. And we have the engineering board of Kenya and all. You underwent a thorough training. After that, you are expected to discharge and show your expertise. Then by the when it is time to show it, then we are told we are incapable. So we need to bring another guy to make, including materials. They also import. PP, as I learned, what is our problem? Is it the brain It is the leadership structure or the resources, because there must be a problem fundamental that is making everything not working for us. Why would we get doctors from outside, but we don't get teachers from outside? We get engineers from South, but we don't get lawyers from South to deal with the things here. So until we understand such things, because I don't know what's the point. Why should we send people to go do engineering if we are going to get people to come and do for us the geothermal and all this stuff? Why would we spend that time? Why can't we just say, okay, in this sector we are not able, so let us just outsource, and then we use that resources to teach these people to other areas that we can afford, because we cannot spend money, taxpayers' money, on the program that at the end of it do not actually help us or bring return. I end it there. Western can take it from there.
Western, do we really need that kind of leadership? Peter, I'm always hesitant to draw parallels between Africa and the US, or in this particular case, Kenya and the US, for the simple reason that you are juxtaposing things that you can only contrast. You can't compare. You can only contrast. One, you said we talk about a radical president. Well, I don't know whether that also means what some people refer to as a benevolent dictator. And my question is, you don't qualify dictatorship, because dictatorship is what it is. It's a brutal regime, completely impervious to alternative views, civil liberties, democracy, and what have you. That's a dictatorship. And where if you stand in its way, it can take you out. So I'm not sure how that could be qualified and say there's some element of benevolence in that kind of behavior. One, I think, Peter, it's even in the US, we can see it. If there's something to admire from that, it is institutions. Not Trump, it's institutions. Because even with whatever Trump wants to do, his caprices, the things that are very close and dear to him, he thinks he can implement them. Those things must be in accord with the Constitution of the United States of America. That is it. They will stop him in his tracks. People will challenge what he's doing. And when they rule, he stops. He's not going to continue. Once they rule, he stops. And that's why, even when he knew he was the candidate to beat during the campaigns, he still found time to appear in court when he was required. What does that tell you? That institutions work. It's not about personalities. So if there's anything we'd want to replicate, it's about institutions. Because human beings are drawn to vanities. They toy with the idea of breaking the law. If I break the law, if I amass wealth and stuff like that. It's not an African thing. It's a human thing to want to be deviant, to want to be able to see if you are above the law when you're a president. Even those Western leaders, they do toy with that idea. Untrammeled power. You want to remain in power in eternity. Even Obama talked about it. That he believed if he ran for a third term, he would win. But the American Constitution didn't allow him. So he had to abide by that. So what we have on this other side of the Atlantic, there are rogue people. There are people who have behaved deviantly for so long and gotten away with it, such that it's become a way of life. But the cure to our corruption, Pipita, is not the person they refer to as a benevolent dictator or a radical president, as you put it. or an autocracy. That is not the cure, because Africa is not new to autocracy. Even as we speak now, there are autocratic regimes across Africa. And I don't think those countries are doing any better. Kagame, because we spoke about Rwanda before, is the person they usually cite as a benevolent dictator. But you can see what that comes with. It comes with all that, wars and conflicts, both internally against perceived enemies, perceived opponents, perceived opposition leaders. You can jail some of them. You can run some of them out of town. They go into exile. You can engage in extraterritorial executions and a whole host of practices that go counter to the tenets of democracy and basic human rights. Or you can also dispatch your military to a neighboring country, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. Not the UN, not the AU, not regional economic committee, nobody, not the ICC. I'm not so sure whether that is the kind of politics we admire, because at the end of the day, it's the ordinary people who suffer pay the ultimate price. So if there's anything we must always strive for is strong institutions. It doesn't matter who is at the helm of the judiciary in Kenya. The judiciary must work. Kenyans should not talk about protecting the judiciary. The judiciary should protect Kenyans, because Kenyans are the ones who are weak. They need the constitution to protect them. And in the judiciary, there's the custodian of the interpretation of the constitution to protect Kenyans and safeguard their rights. So it can't be this talk about Kenyans saying we must protect the judiciary. No, it's the judiciary that has got the power to protect you. Which power do you have to protect the judiciary? And if you can talk of protecting the judiciary, that it means it's not working. It's not working. It should be working to protect you. It's not working. Secondly, Pipita, we are not likely to have a radical president. I borrow from your phrase. We will not, because we are a reactionary and conservative society. We frown upon people who speak their mind. We celebrate political correctness, whether it's in the media, whether in the schooling system, whether it's in civil society, referring to religious formations. We're inclined towards political correctness. When we are socialized like that you don't question a teacher, for instance, the teacher is always right. Your professor is always right. I remember when I went to college, a colleague of mine warned me, no. Here you don't have questions. When these professors get annoyed with you, they can easily fail you. So you must be careful. I remember very well. Well, I didn't listen to him. I did ask questions. But that is the society. You will have your own experiences. You do. What that kind of socialization does is that you get in the political realm people who also think like that. They're very conservative. They're not experimental. They're not radical. So they can't stand up to the West. They can't stand up to the IMF and the World Bank. They can't stand up to all these international actors who pile pressure on them to do things that are injurious to the people of Kenya. They will not stand up to them. A gentleman is one who doesn't ask questions. A gentleman is one who doesn't raise, concepts like, imperialism, those kind of things. You don't do that. The World Bank means well for us. They will give us aid, for development. The IMF, and they're our development partner. The UN means good. It's a force for good. We have to, celebrate them, accede to their demands. The World Health Organization, those kind of things. So we will not have a Trump. A Trump couldn't care less what you think of what he's doing or his policy. He could not just care less. You can go to hell. This is what I promised to do to my constituents. I will do it. I promise to take out of the US illegal immigrants. I'm doing exactly that. I promise to cut taxes. If that's what you promise, I'll go ahead and do that. I think Africa is a shithole. I'm not going to Africa. Well, doesn't go to Africa. Probably it's going to change this time around. So we are different. As Africans, we're different from Americans. As Kenya, we're different from the US. And one of the enduring failings of the Kenyan political elite is to think that they can borrow from the US and replicate those things locally, and they will just work. No, they will not work. You can go to Harvard and see what they are doing and try to think you can replicate it at the University of Nairobi. It will not work. The other day, I was in one of these Western schools, and they were talking how they had pumped millions and if not billions of shillings into modernizing the university. And I told my colleagues, if this money you were to give a university in Kenya, you would not know where this money has gone to. You would not know. It will be a professor who ran away with the money, or the university council that ran away with the money, or the Senate, or whichever ran away with that money. But they're telling you, we have pumped money into this project, into this building, because in future we will have some machines to install in these free rooms we're seeing. Now we're not using them. But we know in future we will need to expand this particular faculty. That's why we've set it up. We pumped in so much money. You pump in money into a university in Kenya and tell me whether somebody will account for that money. Because they know it's for their best interest. It's for themselves and their children and their children's children. For us, you can go to university as a vice chancellor, you run it down and you go away. Whoever comes with their problem. You run a school down, you go away, and no one arrests you, no one takes you to court. Now, that is the problem. It doesn't mean those people are not corrupt. We have corrupt people in the US, corrupt people in Europe. The difference, well, you can go ahead and engage in corruption. You can go ahead and steal the money. But if you're caught, you will have no judge to give you a favorable ruling because you talk to some politician who talked to that judge. Or the judge will keep postponing your case until people forget. No, they will prosecute you within record time and you'll go to jail. As an example, that if you become a vice chancellor, don't steal money. If you become a cabinet minister, don't steal money. Peru, Pipita, a country I admire, they have got a jail for former presidents, specifically for former presidents. That is what they do. But if they elect you because they want you to do the work of governing. If you decide to engage in corruption and break the law, they arrest you and jail you, and they lock you up. They can only release you on medical grounds if you say you are terminally sick, and therefore you have to get out. And presidents who have been released, they don't stay long; they pass on. That's the only way you can be free. But if you are in good health, sound health, you're gonna do time in jail until they're satisfied you go out. We don't have that, do we? We can't even countenance somebody like Rigathi being in court, or Raila Odinga, or William Ruto, or we ever talk of any politician or Matiang'i. Instead, we tout them as prospective presidents. We don't ask, but when you are appointed a cabinet minister, you didn't have so much money. Within a record 10 years, you're a dollar millionaire. What did you do? We don't ask those questions. Instead, we say Matiang'i can be our president. Now, can you see how this society cannot be compared to the US society? It can't. How would Americans elect Barack if Barack had so much money that he could not account for? How would they elect him? They couldn't. He would go to jail. He would go to jail. So, Pipita, we don't need a radical president. We don't need a benevolent dictator. We need institutions that are strong enough, independent enough to treat you, Pipita, who does not have a big position, who is not well known, treat you justly, impartially, and fairly, and also treat a president or a former president justly, impartially, fairly. But what we have now, Pipita, you, because probably you may not know anybody in government, or you can't afford to hire a prominent attorney, the justice system in Kenya would be very punitive towards you. But they will let go of a member of parliament who is eligible to stand for murder. And this member of parliament will stand for office and get into parliament and will be called Mheshimiwa. That's the difference between us and them. And therefore, we have to desist from drawing parallels and trying to compare ourselves with them, because we're completely different. Poles apart. You can only find contrasts not comparisons. But Rwanda is a case study of what a benevolent dictator can do, can stay in power for long without elections or sham elections, can also be rogue. There's a book I would advise those who are listening to care read. It's called Do Not Disturb. The story of a political murder by an African regime gone bad. This is about Rwanda. And a takeaway from this book is that the regime in Kigali is murderous, is despotic, is intolerant, has no regard for civil liberties, for the press, for the media, for human rights, and for anything. That's the takeaway from the book. Of course, Kigali will contest that, but that's the takeaway. So those are the things you bargain for when you ask for a benevolent dictator. You ask for proscription of civil liberties, political mobilization, elections. You ask for politically sanctioned executions, both within the territory of the country and even extraterritorially, which means outside the country. You ask for a big man rule. The rule of law is about what the big man wants, not what people want. And if you go against that, there are repercussions. So people don't discuss politics in Rwanda. That's what you would bargain for. So if you have a benevolent dictator, this person, we would not have it. You close it down. We keep quiet. Your political thoughts are yours. You keep to yourself. Don't share with anybody. You could be sharing with somebody who works for the intelligence, and they could easily give you away. So please, be careful what you pray for. You may just get it. That's what we are always warned. It's good to pray, but be careful what you pray for. It may just come to pass. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Weston. I see Bionic Aminom Koroju, but I want to hear from Johnny Nalo first. Johnny Nalo, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks, Peter, for the chance. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Talk to me.
Let me try and keep this short, hopefully sweet. I do not think we need a dictator. I think we need a president with ideas, someone who can actually think about what we need to do. And I think that we have consistently elected intellectually inferior individuals because of their other strengths into positions that require intelligence and innovativeness and leadership. The idea that only authoritarian style leaders can necessitate or inspire change, in my opinion, is flawed. I think that sometimes presidents as quote unquote boring as Kibaki are way more effective because they actually are leaders. They lead by their thought process, they lead by their actions, they lead by their ideas. And I think one thing that William Ruto particularly is not good at is thinking about ways and means of solving the problems that we have. So I wish we can have a post for someone who wants to do what William Ruto is doing, a ceremonial post, and then actually have someone who sits down to think, who might not be as charismatic or popular, but actually sits down to come up with ideas that can make a difference. Secondly, I think on the issue of the foreign aid withdrawal by the states, I think it's a double-edged sword. Obviously, because of the impacts that will have directly on us, it's not the greatest thing. But if we cannot finance our own health, what reason do we have to exist as a country? And Trump has frequently stated that our options are to become another state in the United States if we cannot do things for ourselves. If we cannot finance health, what business do we have building roads? What business do we have, floating tenders for choppers like we're hearing, or even discussing a president? So that's the side I have. On the second swing, though, America owes the world America actually owes the world. The changes we are witnessing, in my opinion, are an indication of a changing global order. We have been in the neoliberal, John Maynard Keynes, that style of economics. Capitalism is quickly being called into question. And so America has benefited from the victory they had in the World War. They are behind the IMFs and the World Banks. They're the people we pay all these predatory loans to. They use very Machiavellian means to get us where we are. They have used the World Trade Organization to set us back, to limit us. They have overthrown our leaders, stolen our elections. So America is not necessarily doing the world a favor. When we had COVID, America printed money and sent $2,000 to people as COVID checks. No other country in the world could do that without tanking the economy. So America has to, they're going to do what they want to do. We have to do what we're going to do. But I think the argument that what they give us is a favor or aid is absolutely flawed. My humble request to all of us listening, let's not look at, we don't need politicians in leadership. We actually need leaders in politics. And someone like Okia might not be charismatic, he might not be flashy, but he has the will to lead. I have a problem with all these people who want to be president, who want to be whatever they want to be, but they have no solutions to our problems. And frankly, the president really isn't what it takes to change this country. Even if we got Omtata tomorrow, it is the many people below Omtata that could make us regress. And so we need someone who can inspire the kind of leadership at various levels that Kibaki did. The reason Kibaki stands out is Kibaki was #1 at the London School of Economics in the 60s. I don't know when it was. We have never had such a president in this country since. So as long as we keep electing intellectual dwarfs, people who sit down to fight people on Twitter, people who think by supporting same-sex, heterosexual marriage, they will gain the ear of people in power. We have to stop electing intellectual dwarfs, because what it takes to compete in this world is another level of thinking. If you've seen what China has done with AI and DeepSeek, they're crashing the US stock market, the tech stock market, because they decided to borrow something from America, flip it, make it cheaper. They've done it with electric vehicles, BYD, etc. So when are we going to start thinking like this if we are consistently dependent on aid? So I think this is a wake-up call. Sadly, whoever we have in power is not a solution. So in the next 2 years, I just sincerely plead, whoever you deem fit to lead, let's elect leaders, not politicians. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you so much, Johnny. And Anasema, let's elect leaders, not politicians. Thank you so much, Johnny. I hope you're hearing, guys. Bionic, talk to me, and then we hear from Fabian. It's 9:15. Hata sauti inaenda, jamani.
PP. I have one thing to just I have one thing to say. Mr. Shilahu was talking about building institutions. That's important, yes. But who are we looking at to build institutions if not leaders? The leaders the money comes in, the money is allocated and distributed, and then leaders have to implement the building of institutions, of building of schools, putting up, enacting the policies on the ground. This has to be done by leaders. So if our leaders are not people of good character and people of integrity, will we really build those institutions? Won't that money just go into people's pockets like it's been doing? So I come back to integrity being my number one thing for the leaders that we have to pick. And going back to 2017 and institutions, do you remember Kenya had Kenya nullified an election, being the second country in the world to do that. That was because we had a functioning Supreme Court, which is an institution, and we had a leader of integrity, who is David Maraga. So the two came together, and we had that amazing ruling that was that worldwide was written about in long papers, major papers, even here. So that's what I wanted to. I have some people coming in, so that's all I wanted to bring up. When leadership, integrity in leaders meets those great institutions, then we'll be going somewhere. But the institutions have to be built by leaders of integrity and good character. Thanks.
Thank you, Bionic. Fabian, how are you?
Hamjambo.
Hatujambo, labda wewe.
Niko salama, asante. Ningependa kuchangia mada hususan katika hii maeneo ya kidiplomasia na namna ambavyo mwelekeo mstakabali wa nchi uko. Kwanza ningependa kwa upande mmoja kushukuru rais wa Marekani Donald Trump kwa sababu tumekuwa na ile hali ya kuwa tunategemea mataifa ya kigeni wakati wa katika kujisimamia, hususan katika sekta ambayo huwa tunasema ni critical kama health, kwa upande mwingine teknolojia ya kijeshi. So ni wakati mzuri kwa Afrika nzima kuanza kufikiria mstakabali wake na mataifa ya kigeni. Mwisho nimeangalia kila ambacho kinaendelea katika nchi jirani ya kidemokrasia ya Kongo. Ningependa kusema kwamba ukiona kwamba ubalozi wetu unaweza kuvamiwa, ili hali sisi hatuna shida na wale waasi na nchi jirani ya Rwanda, inatupatia kwamba kuna kile kitu ambacho kinataka kuendelea ambacho si cha kawaida. Mwisho nikitamatisha katika siasa za nchi, ni kwamba tumekuwa na tatizo ya viongozi hususan wa kisiasa. Ni kwamba tangu kuondoka kwa baraza la mawaziri katika serikali ya marehemu Mwai Kibaki, hatujai kuwa na baraza la mawaziri au bunge ambayo inaweza ikasimamia nchi, kwa sababu ukiangalia katika mfumo wetu wa kiserikali tuko na idara ya mahakama, tuko na bunge na tuko na hiyo sehemu ya executive. Lakini namna unavyoangalia tangu kuondoka kwa Mwai Kibaki, hizi idara zote tatu zimekuwa zikifanya kazi kwa kupata maagizo kutoka sehemu moja ambayo serikali iliyopo sasa mamlakani imejaribu pia kusukuma sehemu hiyo, na kupitia hiyo sehemu unapata kwamba wale ambao wangekuwa na ile uwezo wa kuendesha serikali wapati ile nafasi. Kwa mfano katika sekta ya diplomasia unapata kwamba kuna Wakenya wengi ambao wamehitimu katika huo mfumo wa kidiplomasia, lakini unapata yule ambaye anapewa ile nafasi ya kazi kuongoza mfumo hana elimu yoyote au ujuzi wote katika hiyo nini ya kidiplomasia. Ukikuja sekta upande wa uchumi, yule ambaye anasimamia ni nini kibaraka kwa yule ambaye anampatia kazi. So unapata kwamba sekta nyingi zinaweza kufeli kwa sababu ya kule kukosa mwongozo au ile ari ya watu kufanya kazi. Kibaki aliweza kufaulu kwa sababu ukiangalia katika idara zake zote ambazo aliweka watu ambao wana ule motisha, wana nia, wana ari ya kuweza kupigania zile sekta na kuhakikisha kwamba zinafaulu. Lakini kwa sasa nasema kwamba tuko katika shimo, tuko katika pango, tuko katika giza totoro, hatujui mwelekeo ni wapi. Hata rais mwenyewe hajui nchi anaipeleka wapi. Ndio maana unapata kwamba katika ule uteuzi wa mawaziri unafanywa karibu kila mwezi, yule anateuliwa, huyu anatimuliwa, anahamishwa hapa, anaenda pale, kwa sababu ye mwenyewe hana habari, ana hata ile nini kwamba ameshindwa, hata anajiuliza nchi yenyewe inaenda aje, kwa sababu mahali penye ako kama venye wazungu sema, anafanya ile kitu naita guesswork. Hajui ni gani inatakana kufanya kazi, kwa sababu amejipatia majukumu yote. Unapata kama ni sekta ya kilimo, agriculture, utapata kwamba yeye ndio anapeana ile mwelekeo, na hili hali kuna waziri ambaye amepatiwa ile kazi. Ukikuja sekta ya afya ni yeye, ukikuja sekta ya nishati, energy, ni yeye pale tu. Ikifika pia mambo na sera za kigeni, bado ni yule tu. So tulifanya maamuzi kama Wakenya, na nafikiri pia bado kuna muda tusije tukafanya maamuzi kama hiyo, kwa sababu pia hata ule mfumo ambao wa ugatuzi uliotakikana kufanyika kwa sasa mfumo wenyewe haufanyi, kwa sababu ukipata wale magavana ukikaa na magavana pia watakwambia kwamba pesa hazifiki kwa wakati, inawalazimu wakuwa wamekopa madeni. Wakijaribu kupinga kwamba asasi zingine za kiserikali kama DCI, KRA na zingine zinatumiwa na serikali kuu kuja kuwakandamiza. So uhuru wa kujieleza, uhuru wa kufanya mambo hauko, unless sasa unapata kwamba zimetoka katika Ikulu. Sina mambo mengi Pipita, ningependa kuachia hapo kwa wengine pia kuchangia. Asanteni.
Haya, asante Fabian kwa mchango wako. Ningependa kwenda moja kwa moja hadi kwa ndugu yangu Big Boss pia, ambaye pia ni Mswahili Kongowea. Big Boss. Big Boss, jika unanipata? Ala, ni kama nipati. Mwalimu Wanda, mambo vipi? Wanda, can you hear me? Am I audible, Bionic?
Pipita, nakupata.
I can hear you.
All right, thank you. Hawa mandugu wawili, Big Boss, how are you doing? Big Boss, are you there? Okay, Wanda. Looks like I'll have to recycle them if I have to get anything from them. Okay, thank you so much for your input, ladies and gentlemen. Academia unasema nini wewe?
Bwana, acha mwalimu Wanda. Wanda. Wacha mwalimu Wanda. Mbona aski ama ni network? Maybe ako Kongo msanii.
Network.
Pipi umemaliza?
But I see Aguko Huntington is on the way. Yes, we can give Huntington a chance as mwalimu request the mics as well.
Wacha niseme hivi Pipi, kama unafunga watu watafute sapa na walale. Okay, let me allow that guy to go faster.
Bwana Huntington, mambo vipi? Aguko?
Kwa sana Pipi. Mambo shwari. Mkoaje lakini?
Niko salama kakangu, thank God. Talk to me.
Mi siku hizi nimekuwa listener.
Ni kama umekuwa busy
listen
sana.
a lot. I listen a lot and learn more.
Yeah, ni poa pia.
Hello.
Talk to me.
Mi ni salamu tu nilikuwa nasalimia Pipi. Sijafika kwa nyumba ndio naelekea.
Okay, asante sana kwa salamu zako. Naona Mwalimu Wanda bado ni kama hajatufikia. But thank you so much Aguko kwa kutusalimia na kuonanga kwa listener sana sana. Haya, Academia ulikuwa unataka kusema nini nikielekea kufunga?
Unajua watu kama Guko lazima ukue chonjo nao. Unaona mtu akiwa license na for long, jamaa anaweza kuwa mdozi wako. Unaweza kuwa mtu ako na mambo mazuri sana, kipanda hapa juu unafaa kuja tuambie mbona amekuwa huko chini sana na maza, but amesema ana vitu mingi sana. Unajua mtu akisema mambo, nimesikia mtu anasema mambo ya judiciary nini. We don't have a judiciary in Kenya. The one we have is choreographed. It's like a statue of Tom Mboya or Kimathi Street along Kimathi Street and Tom Mboya along Tom Mboya. So if people talk of Maraga nullified election in 2016 or 2017, so what happened then? You see, when you do something, the result should be felt and seen to be working or to have worked. So you nullify for the optics, then people go back and they repeat the same thing. I would have loved to see if you nullify based on the malpractice, then people responsible for such kind of things must be punished by law. So you don't tell me I've done something wrong in line with the law, but you don't punish me. So what is the effect? Because the essence is to deter another person to repeat the same mistake. So if you don't punish them and then they go and repeat the same thing, it is a choreographed thing. So it doesn't serve any purpose. So I think to me, there are things that we cannot say. In fact, the Western Shialo said it well. Judiciary cannot come out to tell us that Kenya should protect. It is the opposite. Judiciary must protect Kenyans because we have already donated them powers and we've given them full mandate to protect us. They cannot run to us to protect them. What are you going to protect? Are we going to protect them to tell them how to decide on the cases? Or are we going to tell them to arrange how I don't know what they want by saying or what they mean by saying Kenya should protect which Kenyans, particularly which one? It is the wananchi or lawyers or judges or what? So they must also be very clear. So I think one of the failures we have is the judiciary that is mandated to discharge and make fairness in terms of justice. They want people to get equal to justice, but there is no equity to justice. So there must be equity. You are told if you are aggrieved, go to court. You've gone to court. So you have a case, succession case or something like that for over 30 years. So how is that justice? Because they must tell us why a case can take more than 10, 15 years, even if it is criminal case. Why? Because of corruption. How can a case take 20 years? You just use a common sense to say, no, it is more than enough. So either we decide it our way or we throw out this case. Because it really, that is what we need to see. But are they doing that? They don't do that. So what are they doing? What exactly is judiciary doing in the first place? What is it that they are doing? Actually, okay, I'm not rubbish that they are not doing something, but they are doing very little. We expect them to do more. There are certain things that you discharge. Judiciary must relinquish itself from the political cocoons They have allowed politicians to control them. And then they cannot come to cry for us because there are things that you dismiss immediately. You go to court, told this cannot work here. Go back. So that doesn't mean you don't access to be. It's just a common sense. You are told the reason why is because 1, 2, 3. So that has failed. Can you proceed to the next? You are arrested. You have taken more than 24 hours. Then you are supposed to be presented to court within 24 hours, unless there are compelling reasons to hold you. Now, who dictates these compelling reasons? It is the police to decide which compelling reason for you to be held or to be held in custody for more than 24 hours. So once you are arrested, you have taken more than 24 hours. When you go to before a judge, the only simple I would expect judge to ask, why did you not present this person as per the law? Failure to which, release this guy. Don't tell us, mention the next, what are you mentioning? This person already violated the law. Simple. So get hell out of my face. There are cases that, do you know when you go to court of appeal, which is supposed to deal with the specific item of the law, then you listen to people, it's like you are starting case afresh. The case will go to Supreme Court, it is like it is afresh. So from High Court to Court of Appeal to Supreme Court, and then you are told you come see what? These are the things we need to deal with. Once that passed through the High Court and you appeal, at the appeal, there should be what are you appealing? That is the piece we want to understand what you are appealing, because it should be progressive from the High Court, because High Court judge is qualified to be Court of Appeal. Court of Appeal is qualified to be Supreme Court. So really, if a qualified judge in High Court have already decided based on law, what is this law again that there's a Court of Appeal cannot, the Court of Appeal will use that the High Court cannot see? And then the Court of Appeal is there. Then you go to Supreme Court. Really, if it is not a waste of time. And when you look at those litigations, they are a waste of time because you are dealing with something that was decided a long time ago, but with their layers of corruption put in, just appealing. So look at the process is flawed. And that is what I would expect a functional judiciary to clear, so that when you go to Supreme, not every case should end in the Supreme Court. There are petty cases that should be dealt at the level of clerical works. The clerk will just tell you, paralegal student will just tell you, according to the petition, this lacking, go and amend it. This, so that you don't reach there and then you are thrown out. These are the things I expect judiciary to work on, so that we don't waste time. Their case, how can you go to a court and then we start debating whether you have a certificate or not? Really? It is something that should be taken 10 minutes to verify whether you are graduated or not. We don't have to go to court to debate whether you went to school or not. It is so obvious, and it is not the function of judiciary to tell who went to court or not. No, we have bodies. If you go to court to claim that you don't have certificate, or you have, then the judiciary should direct that to the university. So go and get a certificate today. Bring certificate as the case is decided. Then again you say, okay, these are the things we need to clear. So anybody telling us that judiciary is working, it is not working. And that is why I also support people who say we must remove some of the hurdles in the judiciary, not necessarily to remove Chief Justice, also that, because you must also differentiate between an institution and an individual. So we don't need to attack the institution, but we need to attack the act within that institution that makes it not trustworthy. So as I learned PP, the reason why I'm talking like that, because the access to justice in Kenya, it is for the rich. And the people we have mandated to make it accessible has made it as complicated things. Look at the case of Cairo. Cairo was bailed on bond around 2 million. There is another fraud guy who attempted to do something of 1.something billion. And then you are telling me that somebody committing a crime of 1.3 billion, you are giving a bond of 300,000 while somebody going away with the 5 million you are bailing. Really, where is the justice? Where is fairness? It can't work like that. If somebody is saying that that's corruption, it's corruption. Because you cannot, somebody who has murdered somebody is different from somebody stealing unga from the supermarket. So if somebody stealing unga from supermarket, you want to pay bond for 20,000, and a murder guy going out with 100,000, where's the justice there? Where's the justice? So these are things that we need to talk about, because it's more of criminal than civil. So pursuing civil remedy and criminal remedy, it is too expensive to pursue criminal remedy as opposed to civil remedy. But the same, you realize in Kenya, even seeking or pursuing the civil proceedings is even more expensive, because they will tell you, okay, we will the trial, okay, mention and all that is a waste of time, PP, and we cannot afford that. Anybody calling for judiciary, for reforms at judiciary, is a good friend of mine, because there are a lot of things actually designed to fail. I'm a very mad person. You arrest somebody, because the same in 2021, High Court in Mombasa ruled that you don't go arrest a man. After arresting them, then you want to hold them in custody, then you do an investigation. The Supreme Court sustained the same, said you cannot arrest a man without proper investigation, and underline the word proper investigation. That is very key. So what is happening? People are arrested, taken to court after 24 days, after 24 hours, the court will say, okay, we are seeking some 2 or 1 week to do an investigation. The moment you tell a judge that you want to maintain somebody, to put somebody in custody for another 1 week to do an investigation, why were you arresting the man in the first place? That is the question the judge should ask you. Why do you arrest him if you need investigation? You should have done that, arrest the man, arraign this man in court, prefer charges against him. Then the court will decide based on the fact and the law contravened. Those are the things we need. If our judges cannot do that, then you are telling me they are doing which work? You are arrested before investigation, the High Court, and sustained by the Supreme Court, that you cannot arrest somebody without proper. They say the word proper investigation. What does the proper mean? It must be convincing that actually you did you committed a crime, and that once you are arrested, then you arrest somebody, no investigation, take them to court. First of all, nobody has the power to punish anybody except through the court, which in fact accept the law via court. And even in court, the courts are expected to act judiciously and judicially, for that matter. So our courts must act judiciously and judicially. The places where they are supposed to act, they don't act. Places where they don't act is when they want to act. We can't run a country like that. If it is law, it is law. If the law says you must be presented within 24 hours, that is the law. Failure to which, there is no case. Set this guy free. In fact, free bond. People are arrested during Mandamano. Somebody is taken for more than 3-4 days. Then the police will present them. Then the judge will say, we bail them on cash bail of 5,000. Why? First of all, you have already contravened the law. You have not produced them within 24 hours. Then once they have produced, instead of focusing the rights of these people violated and the law, you want to tell us that now because they're giving the cash bail for 2,000 or whatever, that is fair. It is not fair. That is not justice. So those are the things we need to address. And they're the people, the judiciary does not make law. They are custodian of the law, and they interpret in a way that promotes values and principles of the Constitution. If they cannot do that, they have no business in being that office. They have no business at all. So the man, the president, as well as the layman must get equal and fair justice. So it cannot be for the big guys. No. What the law says, that is it. Even the law itself says when the wordings of a statute is simple, clear, and unambiguous, courts are under compulsion to give it its ordinary meaning. Don't add anything to it. That is simple. So they must act, they cannot create their own law. So where the law is very clear, like the lawyers say that it is clear to everybody. The reason why Constitution is made in such a way that even the layman can read and understand is because it's made by people and for the people. So that you don't bring legalese in law that make a layman does not understand what they purport to protect them, because we make laws and then we vote for it to pass. Therefore, we cannot make it difficult for us to understand what we want to guide us. That is the law. So anybody can read Constitution and understand it. To the interpretation, you can leave to lawyers and judges. But reading and understanding, you should do that. That one should be clear for anybody, because it is made for Kenyans, not for the legalists, not for the engineers, not for the elite. It is for everybody. So they must address themselves to that question. Otherwise, people will lose trust in the judiciary. So it is a matter of how much you have to access justice. That is not the essence of making law. So our Constitution should serve everybody equally and with fairness. So we cannot fight for equality and hide not to prevail upon equity, because the biggest success of any democracy is equity. Already you have equal chance, but is there equity? There is no equity. So we are fighting for equity in the corridors of justice, so that people don't feel that they can only get that justice when they go to who says what, who is who in the corridor of power. That cannot happen. So we must hold our judiciary to account. They cannot purport to be the one looking for help from outside. We have already given them a mandate. They should discharge that, and they have the full. That is why removing a judge is very complicated. It's not like removing any civil servant. The reason why those were put that were to make that institution trustworthy and to make that institution to make it have some minimal interferences, so that you cannot just wake up and say this judge must go, and then the president can just make a call and say the judge must go. No, it was put in writing in law, so that once you are there, nobody can intimidate you. The reason why they are being intimidated, because they allow themselves to be intimidated by people. They are already protected by the people. We have given them the law to be the custodian of our law, to discharge justice the best way. What do? They are again running to us that we should protect. No, we cannot protect judiciary. If they cannot work, just get out. If they can't work, let them get out. Simple. Maybe that is it.
Thank you so much for that.
John Bana Academia. You get us to the end of today's conversation. Thank you so much for that submission.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome. Home Run with Pipi.
Asanteni sana kwa kuwa na mimi siku ya leo. Thank you so much everybody. Western Shilaho, Bionic Academy, and every other speaker who has found time to talk to us since we started up until this moment, where I'll have to leave